Thank you. Um, Good evening, everyone. This is the June, what's today's date?
May 7th.
May.
Jumping the gun.
Sorry, I'm really jumping ahead of myself. This is the May 7th, 2024 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is John Curran. I am the vice chair, but tonight I will be acting as the chair because the chair, Ryan Cook, is unavailable. Before we get started, I'll introduce everybody. To my immediate left is Jeremy Kay. He's also the clerk. To his left is Ed Watson. To Mr. Watson's left is Ron Handberger. And all the way at the end is Jean Rummel. Now, the first application, or the first public hearing was scheduled for 6:35. We did have some items to discuss at the business meeting. There's one item that I think we can take up really quickly, and it's a request by Attorney Prue to extend the, what is this? Yes, this is a request on variance number 23-2 to, on behalf of Jason Bourne. It's a request for a 6-month extension to file a building permit. Attorney Prue, the floor is yours, and if you don't mind, get over to the microphone so you can be recorded.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
1 year ago, we were able to get a decision that allowed the building on a lot through you folks. We've had to seek an extension based upon the fact we've been able to close on that lot due to a second mortgage that had to be discharged. We just got that discharged, and I understand it's going to be closed next week. Unfortunately, what happens is you run up against that 1 year time frame, and there is a provision in the statute which allows 6 months if you folks are so inclined to allow it. So we're asking for that 6 months. We understand we can't ask for it again. But the permit itself, the application for building permit has to be initiated within that 6-month period, so we're right up against it. But we feel like this is going to be an appropriate, we'll have the appropriate time to get everything, into the ground at that point. So that's where we're asking for the 6 months.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Any members of the board have any comment on this request? Should we take a vote on it?
Move to approve Mr. Prue's request.
Second.
Second. Why don't we, just by a show of hands, everybody in favor, raise their hands, aye. Passes 5-0. The extension's granted.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, the time is now 6:36. The first public hearing was scheduled for 6:35 p.m. This is a request for a special permit being brought by Gen 2 New England Properties LLC for property located at 482 Foundry Street. Mr. Clerk, do you want to read the application into the record?
Sure. Town of Easton public hearing. The Easton Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 6:35 p.m. to be held at the Olive Rams High School, Simmons Lecture Hall, 100 Lothrop Street, Easton, Mass. On the following petition, special permit application, Gen 2 New England Properties LLC for a property located at 482 Foundry Street and 390 Bay Road, Northeastern Mass. Assessor's map 45U, lots 30 and 29A for a special permit pursuant to Easton Code Book, Chapter 235, zoning, Section 235-56, special permits, and Appendix A-2, Table of Use Regulations, E5. Applicant seeks permission for a drive-through window in connection with a restaurant. This notice is also available on masspublicnotices.org. Comments received. Affordable Housing Trust, not applicable. Board of Health recommends and notes building will tie into sewer. Grease trap will be required, recommended. Building department recommended. Environmental planner, incomplete. Environmental planner indicates this project would require storm water review for new impervious surface under town bylaw. Historical commission, incomplete. Planning and zoning board recommended with the comment, at the meeting on April 29, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Board reviewed the application and plan for 485 Foundry Street for a special permit for a drive-through in connection with a Taco Bell restaurant located in the Furnace Village District. The board members expressed concern over traffic and voted to recommend contingent on the applicant submitting a supportive traffic study that is then peer-reviewed on behalf of the town. And I think I missed that the historical commission said it was incomplete and noted the structure at 482 Foundry Street, the structures at 482 Foundry Street are older than 75 years, and proposed removal requires a demolition review application to the historical commission.
Okay, so who's going to be presenting for the applicant? Could you identify yourself? Yes, if at the mic, or if you want to use the podium, you can use that as well, whatever's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, before I make the presentation, with the chair's permission, I would like to just touch on those few comments that the clerk just read. So the environmental planner mentioned stormwater review that's required under the town bylaw. That's not an issue. This project, if we are fortunate enough to be successful and obtain a special permit here, we will be applying to the planning board for site plan review. And part of that site plan review includes a review of stormwater, which most likely will be done through peer review. So that's no issue. Historical Commission, the term that Permitize uses, incomplete, the application is not incomplete. What Historical Commission is referring to, and I believe you just read it, is that there's an additional permit required under the general bylaw, which is demolition delay. So for structures over 75 years, there's a process you go through, and that process is through historical. And again, the applicant will go through that process, no problem at all. Lastly, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended the project, but recommended it subject to traffic study. We participated with town staff, was it last week, Stephanie? In a development review team meeting. I'm sure the board's familiar with development review team, but for the sake of members of the public, development review team is when an applicant comes before the town on an informal basis. In the town planning director commissions a meeting with all of the appropriate planning folks, you know, DPW, fire, water, planning department staff, and goes over sort of a preliminary review of the plan. At that meeting, it was suggested that the applicant had already been proposing and preparing a traffic study. It was suggested that that be submitted as part of this process and be peer reviewed by the board. So the board has started that peer review process, as I understand it. So the board is hiring an engineer to review the traffic study that the applicant commissioned. So with respect to that comment, no problem. Traffic study has been submitted, will be peer reviewed. The applicant is prepared to pay for that once the proposal comes in. And I expect that we'll continue this meeting to next meeting so that that can be discussed. So those are, I believe, the comments. I believe I addressed all the comments that were there. The other ones, I believe, were either not applicable or recommended.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the chair's permission, the way I'd like to move forward is just give a general overview of the project. With me this evening from Greenman Peterson Engineering is Nicole Duquette, who's seated right at the front. She will, after me, give a presentation of sort of the engineering aspects of the project. And with her is Robert Bollinger. Robert prepared the traffic study that was submitted, and I assume that the board doesn't want to go into too much detail on traffic this evening, but he will give a brief overview, and if you want to get into more detail, happy to do it. He's here, and, you know, we can take advantage of him as much as we need.
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm not sure if you identified yourself
Oh,
on the
good
record.
point. Good point.
I know who you are.
I'm so used to
but-
people on the board knowing me that I apologize, especially for everybody out here. So my name is Walter Marioni. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Marioni, Shaughnessy, and Udi. Our firm is based in Quincy. I live in Easton, and I am representing the applicant who is proposing to develop this site.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. So, the project is located at 390 Bay Road and 482 Foundry Street. Two adjacent properties. Our client has them both under agreement to purchase, does not own them at this point. He is proposing to develop, or they are proposing to develop, a Taco Bell with a drive-through. I suspect everybody knows Taco Bell and what they are, but I'll say it out loud just in case anybody's watching at home and is not familiar with Taco Bell. Taco Bell is, they serve a variety of Mexican-inspired food, tacos, burritos, quesadillas, nachos, all those kinds of foods that you associate with sort of Mexican brand, Mexican-inspired food. It's a fast food type restaurant. Taco Bell is the 12th largest fast food restaurant in the United States. They have more than 8,000 locations worldwide, and they serve over 2 billion customers each year. So while I will be the first to admit that I have never eaten at a Taco Bell, it seems like there are a lot of people that want to eat at Taco Bell, just not me. The proposal is a building, what they call a pad, 2,153 square feet. They haven't nailed down the exact number of seats yet. And it is 20, so, okay, so I was gonna say no more than 20, but it looks like at this point it's going to be 20. The combined lots contain approximately 3/4 of an acre. They're proposing 13 parking spaces, and again, Nicole will get into more of these details. I'm just trying to give a sort of a broad overview. There are 7 parking spaces that are required under the zoning bylaw. The drive-through proposal includes 2 lanes that will feed to the building, where they will serve 1 window. So they'll queue up in 2 lanes for different purposes that, again, Nicole's going to explain. She'll give us more details, but they queue up and serve 1 window. This property is located within what's called the Furnace Village zoning district. And the Furnace Village zoning district has several different sub-districts. Each have different goals and different controls. The sub-district that this property is in is called the Depot Street Sub-District. This district and these sub-districts were created by the planning board after lots of study and through town meeting just a few years ago. This site used to be zoned what's called a business district. Through a master plan study that was commissioned 10 years ago and the sewer infrastructure that was brought in, this area was targeted for new zoning, and this is one of the new zoning districts and sub-districts. So in this zoning district and sub-district, a restaurant is allowed by right. A drive-through facility is by special permit in this sub-district. So the example I would use would be Aroma Joe's. Aroma Joe's received a special permit from this board for a drive-through, I don't know, 2 years ago. That property is located in the exact same district and sub-district. So the focus, it's impossible to separate out the two, right, a drive-through from a restaurant. But the focus of the special permit is on the drive-through, not on the restaurant. So that's what we're here for tonight. The zoning board of appeals is the special permit granting authority. That's why we're here this evening before the zoning board of appeals. Easton has a planning and zoning board. Many of you are familiar with that board. They have special permit granting authority over many uses, but not this use. This use goes to ZBA. The applicant will have to go to the planning board, as I mentioned earlier. That application will be for site plan review. Site plan review focuses on the interior of the site, the layout, the buffering to neighbors, the drainage, those types of things, parking, more the layout in the interior of the site. Other than that, this project complies with all zoning requirements. There's no other relief, there's no relief at all required. There's no setback problems, there's no area problems with the lot's sufficient size, it has sufficient frontage. It meets all the requirements of the zoning bylaw. So again, the only requirement for relief, and I don't consider a special permit relief, but for permission, is a special permit for this board. And in our zoning bylaw, the zoning bylaw that was recodified, in order to get a special permit, and I'm going to paraphrase, but I'm going to read it anyway. The special permit shall be granted by the special permit granting authority, this board, only upon a determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and the proposed relation to that site. So you have to look at the use that's proposed. You have to weigh whether that's good for the town as it relates to the particular site in question and the particular use on that site. Here again, restaurant allowed by right, drive-through. If that outweighs the adverse effects, then the board should grant the special permit. So there are 6 criteria that get analyzed under the bylaw. We've submitted those and addressed all of those in our memorandum. Unless the chair wants me to review all of those at this point, I think what I'd prefer to do is turn it over to Nicole and let her sort of address the engineering and start to have the conversation going.
Sure, why don't we, with that, Mr.
Perfect.
Mario, why don't we do that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hello, my name is Nicole Duquette from Freeman Peterson, or GPI. Well, Walter stole a lot of my thunder here, but I'll just add to what he presented. I know that there was some talk before the meeting about where this is located. So just to give you we have an aerial up on the board right there. So this is the 3 gas station corner. We're opposite that. The Burger King is up in the corner here. Moving on to the plan. Now, mind you, this is kind of flipped. Our north arrow is pointed down now, so just for orientation purposes. Like Walter was saying, we are proposing a 2,153 square foot Taco Bell restaurant with 20 seats. This isn't there are 2 different prototypes for Taco Bells in this area. There's a 40-seater and then there's a 20-seater. It was determined that a 20-seater would be sufficient for this site. The other thing to realize is this drive-through. This is having the dual drive-throughs is now a prototype. Is now the prototypical way of doing these Taco Bells. One lane, the inside lane, is designated as the mobile pickup lane, and the outside lane is designated as the drive-through. So this is just to enhance the customer's experience so that Taco Bell can serve their customers faster, and get them out of the lanes faster so that they can get their meals faster. Like Walter said, we have 13 spaces in the front. 1 will be ADA accessible per ADA guidelines. Because we only have 20 seats on the store, that is perfectly sufficient for this. We did previously have a concept that did have more spaces on this lot. However, in meeting with the staff, it was determined that green space is key for property. So we really made sure that we tried to reduce the amount of pavement on this site and add more green to the site, and additionally add more landscaping to this site than prototypically is done with our Taco Bell sites. As far as pedestrian circulation, we do have access to the sidewalks. Sidewalk entrance would be off of Foundry Street, and we have a connection to the building there. Access to the roadway system, that we are proposing a full access along Bay Road as far as we can, put it away from the intersection. And then we're proposing a right in, right out onto Foundry Street. We're not contemplating lefts in and out of this site. There will be a pork chop island that separates the right in, right out to direct traffic sufficiently. As far as the freestanding sign will be located at the corner of Bay Road and Foundry Street up in here. It will be the required 15 feet away from the property line as required. That being said, I don't have a whole lot to, unless you want me to get into what we're proposing on drainage and utilities, which that is more usually what I present to a planning board. I can get into that. If not, I'll hand it over to Bob Bollinger for the traffic presentation.
No, but I don't think we need to get into that for the purposes of this application at this time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Robert Bollinger, and I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant, and I'm the traffic engineer of record for the project. My apologies in advance. I love springtime, but the throat does get a little scratchy, so you can just bear with me if I need to clear my throat every once in a while. As indicated in the opening statements, we have prepared a full traffic impact and access study for this project. We're well aware of the fact that the town wishes to have it reviewed by an independent reviewer. That's fairly typical in this type of situation. We would certainly welcome that, and whatever comments your peer reviewer comes back with, we'd be more than happy to try to work through and resolve all comments that we can. With that being said, I guess it's sort of the pleasure of the board. I could give you a very brief overview of just sort of our process, what we've looked at. Again, I think I want to allow your independent reviewer to have an opportunity to sort of absorb this as well. So again, I'll leave it to the pleasure of the board that you kind of go into as much or as little detail as you wish this evening.
Well, there's a lot of, looks like there's a lot of people from the public that are here. They're here for this presentation, and I think it would certainly be helpful for them to have some sort of presentation into some of the details of what you're talking about.
Okay. No, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I guess for starters, traffic study was prepared in accordance with all applicable national as well as Mass DOT standards. I do want to point out that there is no Mass DOT jurisdiction over these roadways, despite state-numbered route designations. They are wholly under the jurisdiction of the town of Easton. However, the state does set forth certain requirements for traffic impact studies, and we wanted to make sure that we state for the record that we follow those and all other applicable criteria. In terms of study area, what we wanted to do is look at, obviously, our site driveways, but we also performed an analysis of the signalized intersection at Bay Road and Depot Road. For our analysis periods, because of the size and type of facility, that typically governs what you would look at for your analysis periods. Taco Bell does serve breakfast and other meals throughout the day. So we felt that it was appropriate to analyze your peak hour periods, specifically the weekday AM peak hour period, the weekday evening peak hour period, and the Saturday midday peak hour period. For retail commercial establishments such as this, particularly where there is potentially a breakfast component, we wanted to really have solid bookends there and make sure we captured what we feel are potentially the three primary peaks of the proposed development. That said, we did do our traffic data collection. We did intersection turning movement counts at the signal in late February and early March of 2024. We also collected daily traffic volumes along the site frontage on both Bay and Foundry. Traffic data collection, just so it's stated on the record, was counted while school was in session. We typically like to avoid school vacations. We like to get a better snapshot, we feel it provides us when school is in session. So school was in session, and additionally on the days that we counted, there was no inclement weather observed. So in terms of what we would typically do then, we kind of take that raw data and we look at it. Massachusetts DOT traffic impact study guidelines indicate that you have to look at an average month condition. So if you were to count below an average month condition, you have to adjust upward. All applicable adjustment factors were made, and that really establishes our baseline existing 2024 traffic volume conditions. Just to give you a little flavor, Foundry Street on a typical weekday, our analysis indicates carries close to 10,000 vehicles per day. On a Saturday, it's about 8,500. Similarly, on Bay, during the weekday, lower traffic volumes, about 6,800 vehicles per day, and on a Saturday, a little over 5,000 vehicles per day. Not to bore you tremendously with the numbers, but there was a point I did want to make with respect to driveway access. Based on what I just cited, Foundry was the more heavily traveled route, which is why Nicole alluded to this when she gave the site plan overview. We felt it was appropriate to restrict the turning movements on Foundry, to limit that to right in, right out, as that is the busier road. We felt if you were going to have a single full access point, that Bay would be the more appropriate point, because it does have lower volumes typically during both the weekday and Saturday. So there was some logic that went into the driveway design, and we do, we take that seriously. So I did just want to point that out. We also, as part of our due diligence, we will look at the crash history. We primarily focused at the signalized intersection. It kind of gave us the best sample to provide some indication of whether or not there were any issues. What our analysis found, we looked at the most recent 5-year data that was available from both Mass DOT as well as the Easton Police Department. And what that research indicated, that there were, most importantly, no fatalities that our records turned up. Most of the crashes involved were property damage only, and they tended to be crashes that were sort of prototypical, and I hate to use that word. They tend to be crashes that are most often witnessed at a signalized intersection. You saw some rear end collisions, some angle collisions. Again, the majority of which resulted in property damage only. What our research also revealed is that the state publishes crash rates for both the district level, and the districts are broken off by geographic region within the state. So there's a district-wide crash rate, and there's also a statewide crash rate. We looked at both, and we were well below the crash rate for each of those respective published criteria. So what we can basically state upon that is that there's really no significant crash history to speak of. That's not saying there was no crashes. That's not predictive. That's not to say there may not be a crash this evening or next week or a month from now, but at least based on the averages and the research that we were able to conduct, it does indicate to us that there's no significant crash or safety history at the signal proper. That being said, a couple of other things that we did as part of our due diligence, in addition to collecting traffic volumes, we also collected speed data along the site frontage on both Foundry and Bay Street. What our data found, and this is probably going to be the least surprising statement of the evening, folks are going a little bit faster than you've got your speed limits posted out there. I'm an engineer, not a law enforcement officer, so there's probably not a lot that I can do to correct that. But we did want to point out, not just as an interesting anecdote, the prevailing travel speeds out there, but those speeds are important to us from another important safety consideration, which is the available sight distance at the proposed site driveway locations. How much sight distance that you have, if I may approach the board?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. As you're conducting your exiting maneuver from the site, you want to have sufficient clear sight lines such that you can see opposing traffic so that you can safely complete your maneuver. That would be applicable on the Foundry, although you're really just looking to the left there because you're restricted to the right turn out only. On Bay, since it's full access, you can make both left and right. We wanted to make sure that you had adequate sight triangles looking to both to the north towards the signal and to the south along Bay Road. And how we determine what those distances should be are based on the speed. So that was an important reason why, again, as part of our due diligence, we like to collect speed data so we can ensure that we're meeting the appropriate sight limit, sight distance criteria based on the prevailing speed, not just what it's posted. We want to evaluate it based on what folks are actually doing. So we're not really excusing them for breaking the law, but if that provides a more, oh, I got it. I was quick. I hit it. All right. Sorry, we thought we had a screen freeze for a second. So I'd be more than happy to again, answer any questions, but I did just want to put out there the speed element with respect to sight distance. Based on that, what we found, sight distance along Foundry Street is excellent. It meets all necessary requirements. Bay Road, sometimes part of our job is to identify, well, the good and the bad. We did find there was a minor sight distance obstruction looking to the south on Bay Road. There's actually some existing vegetation on the abutting property, which I won't speak to it directly, but it looks like it may be in the right-of-way, but I believe there are some negotiations with that neighbor that may occur. But we feel that it's something that with some minor trimming could be addressed. If we're able to deal with a little bit of overgrown vegetation, we feel that there's going to be appropriate sight distance requirements satisfied on Bay Road as well. So in essence, safe entry from a sight distance perspective exiting the site. This was just moving along. Mass DOT traffic standards require that not only you assess your existing conditions, but that you look at your opening year. They establish a horizon year of 7 years hence. So basically, we were required to analyze the year 2031 in our analysis. There's some growth factors and other methodologies that we can utilize to try to project to what that future condition will be. But in essence, 2031 serves as our baseline. And what we will do then, we will look at traffic in the year 2031, both with and without the proposed development. In order to determine the amount of traffic generated by the site, this board may have heard testimony previously on trip generation and the like, but we do rely on nationally published data, not client-furnished data, but data that's published amongst other engineering professionals, titled the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. And basically, by applying the square footage of the facility, we can make a reasonable estimate as to what the expected trips of the site will be. During the peak hour, that's what we try to focus on. An important thing about this site and about other retail establishments as well, they tend to draw heavily from the existing traffic stream. So in other words, you may be driving along Bay Road and out of impulse, you may decide to turn into the Taco Bell or any of the other proposed establishments. In other words, you're basically already part of the adjacent traffic stream. You're not necessarily considered a new trip where that's your sole destination. Our projections estimate that traffic associated with this development, it's going to be about 50% pass-by traffic. So in other words, about half the traffic that this site is going to generate is already on the adjacent street system. Bay or Foundry are passing by along the site frontage. What that equates to in terms of new trips, or the engineering word would be primary trips, is approximately 48 new vehicle trips during the AM peak hour, approximately 32 new vehicle trips during the PM peak hour, and approximately 59 new vehicle trips during the Saturday peak hour. From a general baseline perspective, it's more of a rule of thumb than a cited standard as such, but typically if you're under 100 peak hour trips from a new perspective, it generally indicates a development that will not present any significant impact. There will be measurable impact, there will be noticeable impact if you drive past the site, but in terms of sort of local or regional significance, it's typically not the size and type of development that would be classified as a major traffic generator. And obviously, your independent reviewer will have the opportunity to chime in on that as well. I suppose just from an operational perspective, the board may have heard testimony before about level of service and delay and things of a technical nature like that, but basically what we have found is that overall signal operations performed well under all analysis scenarios. There may be some room for improvement, particularly the southbound movement from Depot Road. That was the one movement that we actually found to operate over capacity in that horizon year, 2031. It actually operated over capacity even without our site. So it's sort of a baseline observation. As traffic grows, sometimes things just deteriorate a little bit. What our analysis demonstrated is that could be mitigated by some very simple signal timing modifications. That's a fairly routine mitigation measure. But there was nothing that we observed that actually warranted additional widening or geometric changes at the signal itself. As an aside, it's recommended that traffic signal modifications be at least considered every 5 to 10 years. I couldn't state with any degree of certainty when the last time that signal was modified from a timing perspective. But that is something that is included in our report, and obviously, again, your peer reviewer will have an opportunity to comment on that. Lastly, I did just want to talk about operations at the site driveway locations. What our analysis determined, level of service is kind of it's a letter grade. Level service A is great, kind of like your school grades. It goes all the way to F. Exiting movements from the site driveway locations are projected to be B or better during all conditions. So basically minimal delay with very little vehicular queuing expected on site. So in other words, we're not really expecting that there's going to be any on-site interference with internal operations based on motorists or potential customers not not being able to exit the site. So I think I didn't want to go into, Nicole, I don't know if you had anything else to add, at least on the internal queuing. You kind of touched upon the mobile order versus the traditional order window. My professional opinion as a traffic engineer is that the stacking that is shown on the plan is adequate to meet the projected demand. They show up to 13 vehicles as presented. However, you can see there's also a little bit of wiggle room there. You could probably support an additional 2 to 4 cars at least, without really impacting internal operations. So I think with that, I'm not sure if I gave you too much or too little, and I'm sorry if I rushed any part of that. But again, we certainly welcome your questions, and we look forward to working with your independent reviewer.
Thank you, Mr. Bollinger. Was there anything else, Mr. Marioni or Ms. Duquette, you wanted to add? Okay. At this point, we can open it up to members of the public. And what I would ask is, anyone that wants to get up, please go to the microphone. Before you say anything, please give your full name and address.
Sorry.
Oh,
Eventually.
That'd be a bad thing.
well,
Hi,
that's,
my name is Jonathan Moore. I'm a resident of 541 Foundry Street. I gotta leave right now to go my kids dad.
Can we turn mic on?
Oh, yeah, sure.
is that not on?
It's not on. Maybe it's on, but it's not, the volume's not up. Is this any better?
Okay, so if you know what,
Thank you, strange
You're-
voice in the sky.
I know. Let me just, anyone that's gonna make some comments, maybe stand where, what's your name, Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Stand the way Mr. Moore is so that his voice will project out and everybody can hear him. And if during the course of this, if anybody can't hear anything, just raise a hand and I'll remind whoever's speaking to raise their voice.
So this is just a general comment about the traffic. My understanding is we want to make Easton a more walkable place, and in no way do I see a restaurant as a problem. However, the type of restaurant adding more traffic, regardless of if it's a little or a lot, is not going to benefit us. I mean, like, this isn't about me. This is about the future of Easton. I don't really want to see our kids hoarding fast food. So, great idea of the restaurant, drive-through, not so sure, but not the right job. Thank you guys. Enjoy.
Thank you.
And please sign the sign sheet.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, a point of order. Will the board members have an opportunity to ask questions before the public, or do you do that? Or you will do that after?
No, don't we usually,
Sit down again, I'm happy.
don't we usually ask questions after the public's had a chance to?
I'm just asking.
I think
for
usually we'd
clarification.
ask the presenters questions, then
Then the public.
the public would make a presentation, then we'd question them.
All right, well then, fair enough.
But you're the board chair, I mean.
No,
I'm
and,
sure
I
it
mean,
matters.
we're gonna be continuing this to the next hearing date. But, no, that's fine, I don't care. So why don't we then take a step back? And are there any questions that anybody on the board wants to ask? I'll start with you,
Thank you.
Jean.
I'm sorry to interrupt that flow. Beg your pardon. I do have a couple of questions, and because we're on the topic of stacking and the way the cars are lined up and the on-site operations. Right now, you have, I think, 8 cars in one line. I have a question about the way this inside lane works for the mobile app process, and the fact that you have 3 parking spots that seem to be designated for mobile app. It says proposed mobile app pickup sign, or those 2 or 3 that are just for the mobile app. So I'm just trying to understand, because I would have a concern about stacking if the inner lane was dedicated only to mobile app and people were coming in. I would be worried about backup and stacking onto Bay Road, because it doesn't seem as though there's adequate room to go through. So if you could just address that a little bit.
Sure. And am I able to stay here, or should I go up to?
Why don't
Speak
you-
loud.
Why don't you go up to the microphone, just so we
Okay,
can,
speak loud. So, and Bob may want to add to this, but the lanes are at first done for traditional drive-through on the outer and the mobile app on the inner. Now, if the applicant or the Taco Bell restaurant manager finds that it's not working sufficiently, there is a menu board there, so they can turn that into two drive-through lanes. I don't think we'll have a problem in this area with that. You see that more in city in city situations that they have to turn that drive-through menu board on, this second drive-through menu board on. As far as the mobile, that alleviates a lot of the waiting. So what traditionally in the one lane drive-through, you have both mobile and your regular drive-through orders staying in the same line. This will be able to get them in and out quicker because those orders are already ready. So you're going to be able to zipper the drive-through and the mobile order, with the mobile order kind of going in first and being able to pick up an already paid for order. So it does alleviate the drive-through queue wait time, which allows for shorter queues. However, we do have sufficient queues regardless of the shortened wait time.
Mr. Chair, may I follow?
Yeah.
Just, but when we do the traffic study for this, because it seems to me that this is about drive-through, is the way I'm reading this proposal. If you're making your analysis, are you using Taco Bell data, for example, how many meals do you turn over a minute? Or how many minutes does it take to move a meal? How many minutes does it take to move a car? How do you make a determination what the stacking is required?
So I'm going to hand that one over to Bob because it's part of the traffic study. We do a queue analysis with that.
Hi again. For the record, Bob Bollinger, Greenman Peterson. We do have some verbiage. There's a section in our report dedicated to the actual drive-through queuing. There was some empirical data. Sometimes in publications, they don't list a brand. They'll list a type of food, although you can often read between the lines a little bit. The article that we read was citing Mexican fast food restaurants, so I think that's pretty obvious code for this type of facility. We do feel that the stacking space provided is adequate. To Nicole's point earlier, the mobile pickup component of this is really something that is becoming more of the industry standard, not just with Taco Bell facilities. You're starting to see this with Dunkin' Donuts as well. I think honestly this is something that was born out of the pandemic, where a lot of folks had sort of transitioned to not getting out of their car. And that said, there is still adequate parking provided, more than adequate parking provided, and you still have the option to enter into the store to pick up your food purchase as well. From an internal site circulation perspective, I feel confident that the storage provided is adequate. And again, you'll have the opportunity to have your own expert review or comment on this. But it would be my testimony this evening that, as shown, there's sufficient storage provided, and we don't anticipate any interference with the public ways. In other words, spill back onto Bay Road.
And just one more while you're up. And would delivery vehicles, so presumably bigger trucks, who are bringing supplies to the restaurant, I don't know where they're planned to station on this site, but will they interfere with the flow and the stacking of your vehicles?
I think my partner would like to provide a little more specific commentary on sort of
Thank you.
on-site delivery options and things like that. So thank you.
Put my back to you. So for this site, the Dessert de Oro Foods, who is the Taco Bell tenant,
Right.
has agreed to do off-hour delivery. So the delivery would be in the main parking lot in front of the building because they cannot get around the site. The site is just too small to get the delivery truck around. So it would be off-hour deliveries to the store.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Anything
Chairman.
else?
No, sir, thank you.
Ron, any questions?
I'm a little confused with the number of cars that you mentioned. You said 48 in the morning and 32 in the afternoon. It seems like there should be a lot more vehicles entering the restaurant to make it successful. And what percentage of people drive through, and get, as opposed to those that get out of the car and walk into the restaurant.
In terms of, I guess I will just clarify, pardon me as I fumble through my notes here. What I cited previously was the new trips to the area. You are correct, the total would actually be larger. The total number includes those trips, again, that I spoke on a little bit earlier, that are passed by or already drawn from the adjacent traffic stream. So the total site, I'll read these for the record. It's actually 96 trips during the morning peak hour, 72 trips during the PM peak hour, and 119 trips during the Saturday peak hour. And then the previous numbers that I cited would be actually be the new trips, and the difference between that would be those from the adjacent passing street. In terms of percentage utilizing parking versus drive-through, I cannot provide you with a response to that, but that's something I can go back and look and see if we documented that. I don't recall that specific answer. Typically, at least 50% in past studies I've been involved with will choose to utilize the actual drive-through facility as opposed to parking and walking in.
The other comment would be, if my memory is correct, there's no sidewalks on either Foundry or, I know there isn't on Bay Road.
They are being, if they're not there now, Nicole, they are being proposed, that is correct, and I think maybe you alluded to that a little bit in your presentation.
There are sidewalks.
Yeah, they're on the opposite street. Oh, no, they're right
They're
there.
proposed.
They're on that street. They're on Foundry.
Okay, all right.
I mean, just for the record, where the board's looking at a Google satellite image of the site, and it does show a sidewalk on Foundry Street, correct? Yep.
That's what it looks like
On the
to me.
far side of the restaurant?
Both sides.
No,
Both-
Both sides?
Well, this side, which is where the restaurant is,
Yeah.
and then the opposite side on Foundry Street, and then I don't believe there's anything on Bay Road. I can't see
right.
from
It
there.
doesn't look like there's anything on Bay Road, but there is one on Foundry Street.
Yeah.
There is.
Sidewalk right there.
There's a sidewalk that goes right up to.
Yeah,
Gold.
that's, we're looking at
This
it,
is Bay, and then Boundary's right there.
right.
It's not touchscreen.
Old-fashioned, cheap piece of- I'll buy a new one.
Two.
What's the matter with you? You're a lawyer. You're supposed to have a high-tech.
There it is. That's the same image we're looking at right now.
So it does stop, I believe, just past the site.
It stops
trying to
by
see.
where the driveway entrance, proposed driveway.
Right, so
It's gonna be on Bay Road.
we're proposing to continue it to our property line on both sides.
Okay. Right. Ron, any other questions?
I think I'm all set for now.
Okay. Ed?
Yeah, perhaps this is a question for the chair. Has your traffic report already been submitted to a peer review? Have we
No.
already,
That's what's proposed.
Okay.
They have submitted a traffic report.
that we don't
That's-
have?
No, it's part of the package. It's a 161-page document.
Okay, oh, it's on permit eyes, it's not
Yeah,
a book.
and
I get
now,
it.
and that's what's going to be the subject of the peer review, which
So
is
we haven't
why,
actually submitted to peer review at this point?
that's,
If you don't mind, I got the update right before the meeting started. I'd be happy to
Sure.
provide it.
why don't you please
So,
do, Mr. Marion?
Town staff has contacted peer review engineer. Peer review engineer has agreed to handle the work. The way the process works is peer review engineer has to submit a written proposal, a dollar amount proposal. The applicant funds the account, so to speak, provides a check to the town for that, and then the work will begin. So we're at the point where the town has identified peer review. Peer review has agreed to take it on, and town staff, as of 6:30, is waiting for the written proposal. the
I
dollar
see.
amount.
when you were talking to town staff, did they give you any indication how
Right
long?
over here, by the way.
Hi, Stephanie. Did they give you any indication how long until the peer review was complete?
I
Okay,
asked the same
Stephanie
question.
Anderson, I'm the Director of Planning and Economic Development, and we contacted them last week. And I just want to clarify, when the application was first submitted to the board for the special permit, it did not include the traffic report. They subsequently submitted that after. And the peer reviewer is in the process of reviewing and providing a quote. Once they provide us a quote, it would be a minimum of 2 weeks, but I think it's going to be more like 3 weeks if possible.
2 to 3 weeks.
And just to clarify, 2 to 4 weeks to complete the peer review.
Complete the report. Yes, complete the review and then prepare the report and submit it.
Okay. Just one final question for Mr. Bollinger. Was there, I noticed you have a write-in, what you're calling a write-in, write-out, and then the other one is not a write-in, write-out. Why not?
I guess in short form, felt it was appropriate to have at least one full access driveway. In other words, being able to turn left into the site as well as make a left egress out of the site. Given that, we felt it was more appropriate to put the full access driveway on Bay Road simply because there were lower traffic volumes on Bay Road. For Foundry, I think the site plan driveway design is a complement, and if nothing else, it's a recognition of the fact that Foundry Street, larger traffic volumes, more travel lanes, that's a much harder maneuver to make. We're not criticizing any other facility that is presently allowed to make those maneuvers, but we felt for the operation of our site that limiting that right-in, right-out on Foundry was appropriate from an engineering and a design perspective.
So it's a preference.
I think it's a preference, and I think that I think it's a wise decision by the applicant to be amenable to try to recognize his surrounding situation and make that sort of self-imposed restriction. But yeah, I'm not aware of anything in ordinance that would restrict that per se. I just think that that's, I think recognizing again, being aware of your surroundings, I think that's ultimately how the decision was made there.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Ed?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jeremy?
So I'm just thinking about this from the thought that the restaurant is allowed there as a matter of right, and the only thing that you're asking for us to do is to allow it with a drive-through. And so my question is really, what's the difference? Do Taco Bells all have drive-throughs? Is it necessary to have a drive-through? What percentage of the business would be drive-through rather than just sitting down? Can you have a Taco Bell without a drive-through? Those kind of things. And as an aside, another kind of thought about the drive-through, and I guess some of this is going to be borne out in this traffic study, but is there any impact? I was just looking at the map, and I see that the CVS there has a drive-through, and the bank across the street and the Burger King and Dunkin' Donuts have drive-throughs, and I'm just wondering if the fact that there are already 4 or 5 businesses that in the area that have drive-throughs, if that has any impact that we should be considering.
I'll address the last part of it. There are more drive-throughs than even that, right? There's Harbor One behind the site. There's Bank of America across the street. There's Burger King. There's CVS. I believe technically the mobile car wash falls into that. I think we permitted that a long time ago as sort of a drive-through. Again, recently there's the Aroma Joe's. So I would argue that the drive-through here is very consistent with what's everywhere else. There's also the Dunkin' Donuts, which you mentioned. I apologize. I forgot that. They go right up to Target, right? Isn't there a Starbucks up at the Target Plaza? So all of this rezoning, when they changed the rezoning, they, the town, the planning board, recently, a few years ago, and I'm sure that Dale's going to speak to this, removed a lot of or some, I'll qualify it as some allowed uses. For example, single-family residential is not allowed in this zone anymore. Duplexes are not allowed in this zone anymore. Prior to this new zoning, they were. So there was a conscious decision to allow things and not allow things. Drive-throughs were, continue to be allowed by special permit, which is what they were before. Again, I would say this is very consistent with what's in that neighborhood, because I just named a whole bunch of drive-throughs, including one that was permitted by this board under this newer zone. So in terms of drive-throughs, they're everywhere. I think it's a function of the world we live in. Part of what we're trying to do in this whole area is be walkable, and we want to accommodate walkers. There'll be walkways, there'll be entrances from the walkways. There's 20 seats in there. Oh, what? The more the merrier, right? The more people that walk, the more business that's generated, the greater it is. But drive-throughs are what the world lives under these days, and I think the planning board recognized that when they left drive-throughs in the bylaw. So in terms of the numbers and so forth, it's a good question, and I don't know if you know our client, who's the operator of this facility, is not here this evening. He will be at the next meeting. He had a personal commitment with his daughter this evening. So if you don't know those details, maybe we can defer that to the next meeting.
So I do know, just because I do a lot of his work, they do not, they will not build on a site without a drive-through. Especially since the pandemic, there's something about New England, they've got other sites in other areas, but New England likes their drive-throughs. And if there's not a drive-through there, they won't go to the site. That's one of the reasons why in other areas, the seats there are more. However, in New England, the seats are less because the drive-throughs are used a lot more often.
Okay. One more, just logistical as its position. So kind of behind the property on the Bay Road side, there's a condo, and I guess my question is the drive-through window or the microphone or how that's going to be positioned in such a way that it's going to generate noise in that direction? Or, I mean, I can see that you enter from Bay Road and then I can see the traffic pattern, and it looks to me like the window is on kind of the far side of the building. But I'm just trying to figure out where the communication would be between the restaurant and the customer. Does that make sense?
So do you mean the order post or the window
Sure, the order
itself?
that's the better word.
So the order post is in the back, where the two drive-throughs merged. That's the location of the order post or the intercom. The volume of that can be adjusted too. But one of the things I didn't mention is because we knew that we were abutting residential to the south, we wanted to make sure that we put a solid stockade fence there. So that will help buffer any noise there. And, sorry, my screen just froze. In addition, that sound level can be adjusted if it becomes an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Not for me, thank you.
I don't have any questions. Based on the order of questions that were asked, anyone else on the board have any other questions?
Just one more, is the proposed sign to be internally lit?
Typically, they are.
Is it true, though, in some neighborhoods? I beg your pardon, is my question through Mr. Chairman was, is the sign to be internally lit? And I believe the answer was that typically they are, but will Taco Bell consider it an external, something with other kinds of lighting rather than internal lighting?
I could always ask.
Thank you.
It does depend on what is in the area for
Right.
advertising. If everybody else has internally illuminated and the regulations allow it, then they're.
That was the plan, though. Okay, thank you. Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, so I guess we've exhausted the board's questions at this time, so once again, I'll throw it open to members of the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dale Parrish. I live at 21 South Street, so I'm just down 106 up there. And for the record, I like Taco Bell. I actually stopped at the Taco Bells in Boston when I'm on way to South Station and the food. We're all, as taxpayers, stakeholders in this. I appreciate the opportunity for public input. These folks are really stakeholders in this because, as you may recall, there's a sewer project that came online a couple of years ago. Every one of the folks in this room who's here today got assessed sewer betterment. So it was $19,986 and change to those in a single-family home, between $14,000 to $17,000 for most of the condominiums. And many of these folks, myself included, had attended a visioning charrette back in 2018. And the idea, I think, was to get folks on board with the sewer project coming up and with some proposed changes to the density in this area. And I just want to read something that's actually now on the town's MBTA Communities website that refers to that. It says, "It was discussed at the visioning charrette meeting for our community. The town and many of our residents and businesses expressed the desire to make the Five Corners area into a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly, village-type area similar to Main Street in Northeaston, with more restaurants, small retail shops, etc. within walking distance." So that's what was said to us about what was going to happen as part of these changes and so forth. And we're now presented with a situation in which you folks, as the Zoning Board of Appeals, have the authority to say yay or nay to the request for a drive-through at this location. I can tell you, having attended that visioning charrette, nobody was saying what they wanted was more drive-through, fast food restaurants. The special permit, again, it's done as a reason. They don't have it as a matter of right. And I'm asking the board to consider denying that request for a special permit. And I just want to briefly identify some of the reasons for that. First, the standard itself, as referenced in Mr. Marione's letter that was directed to the board, is very clear that it really requires the board to take into consideration a number of factors. But the overall standard is whether the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relation to that site. And I think you're going to hear from a lot of folks who are going to weigh in on some of those issues and some of those factors in particular. There was some reference that the Planning and Zoning Board had recommended, and I appreciate the Planning and Zoning Board had noted some of the traffic concerns because they've been hearing from our neighborhood for a long time in connection with the MBTA zoning issues and so forth. But to be clear, while there were many people who submitted written comments to the Planning and Zoning Board, and many folks, myself included, who were participants in that Zoom meeting who wished and raised their hand to speak, no public input was taken. So for whatever it's worth on the recommendation, it wasn't done with the benefit of any input from any of the folks in this room. There are a number of factors that have been raised about the traffic and so forth. And for those of you who know, if you come down from the north part of Easton and you try to take a left at that intersection with Mobile on your right and the Sunoco station on your left, it's a nightmare to try to take a left. Think about that right in coming from that intersection. If one person is trying to back up their car coming out of that and a car is trying to come in, you're going to have a backup right into that intersection in a matter of moments. And same with the other issues over there, that you're going to have a significant problem backing up into what's already a very challenging intersection. On the traffic data, I heard some of the numbers about what the numbers were looking like on a daily basis and at various points in time. I went online today. Mass DOT has public information about traffic studies that are done. I'll leave this with you guys. And just on March 20th, 2024, there's a traffic station where they've been taking traffic data for a number of years now. And it's located over by Old Pond, sort of between Five Corners, as if you're going to the Big Y Plaza. So it's in that stretch. And the total from March 20th, 2024, daily count for just that one stretch, not including Bay Road and so forth, was 27,943 cars. So typically this area had showed like fewer cars, less than 20,000, I think was actually referenced in the application about in this area. It's actually 27,000, almost 28,000, just on that one stretch coming in. And that doesn't take into account, from Bay Road and so forth. Obviously, not all of the people coming from Mansfield are gonna be passing on going towards Bridgewater, but a lot of those folks all of those folks are feeding into that intersection. So I'll leave this with you. I had extra copies. If you turn on the back side, that's where the totals are. And I just printed out today. You can go on yourself onto Google and just put Mass DOT traffic studies, and you can get this data, and it's all right there. In addition, in 2010, the town had an independent engineer perform a traffic audit about this intersection. And we can also provide that to you as well. But in that, there were a number of concerns that were addressed about the number of driveways in this area. And so this is back in 2010, it was before they made certain improvements, adding an extra lane and so forth that was done. But that traffic audit already noted some of the problems in the area. And I think there's some other folks here who might be able to speak to that in more detail. But there was a section of it dealing with what the capacity was, raising safety concerns in 2010, and that's when the traffic numbers were far below what they are now. They raised a safety concern about pedestrian accommodation. Again, the idea for this area was supposed to be a walkable, pedestrian-friendly community, village like Main Street. So I'd ask, ultimately when the board reviews this information, that it also takes into account some of the historical information that's already available. As far as this area is concerned, I personally love the belief we're at a little bit of a dividing point, and the Zoning Board of Appeals is the one who has to just sort of serving as the gateway of this, what this area is going to look like. These folks are very much committed, having invested in that sewer betterment. $19,986 for the single-family homeowners, $14,000 to $17,000 for each of the condominium owners. They're very much invested in this area and want what's best for this area going forward. This is not an anti-development group. Quite to the contrary, this group has spoken in favor of some of the density changes for this area, with the idea being to promote mixed use, a walkable area where you have a bar or a restaurant to go to, things along those lines. But I would submit that this, another drive-through for a fast food restaurant, is not the way that we should be going. So we would ask the board to take into account input from the public, and ultimately at the end of the day, we're hopeful that the board will decline this, and that there's a better use for that parcel rather than a drive-through for a fast food restaurant. Thank you.
Have you shared this information that you gave me with the applicant?
Oh, I'll give an extra copy now if I can take one of those, yeah. I just got it on Google today, it's the Mass DOT.
Okay.
So I would think the traffic engineer would have that already. It was just, the study was done March 20th, 2024, and.
I don't know whether he has it or hasn't, but
I'll
it's.
give him my copy.
If you're asking for this to be part of the record, then you should give them a copy of it.
Total on the back side.
So these,
Thank you.
this is one page,
Yeah, it's
multiple
actually on the back
copies.
side, you have the total.
I see.
So it has the hourly count, and you can see on that, during the most of the day, it's well over 1,500 to 2,000 cars per hour coming through. And again, it's not exactly in this intersection, but the traffic study that they did was located between Five Corners and the Big Y Plaza.
Right.
And they've done historic studies over there, going back, 10 or 15 years. So you can actually just, you go in, you Google, you put it, it's all publicly available, and you can find yourself a particular date to get the traffic information from that. And this one was just done on March 20th, 2024, so it's quite current. And that number spiked. Before that, I think the town was talking about on average, most of the years they would see about 20,000. But this area is undergoing a lot of development already, and the folks who live in Gaslight, Lamplighter, can't even get out. Just imagine, you're trying to take a left turn and try to come out and go out. You have no other way to get out onto traffic other than getting out into 106. And there was a fatality, by the way, not too long ago, within the last 6 or 8 months, of somebody walking across the street from La Familia over to Gaslight. It was a 70-year-old gentleman who got hit by a car, and one of the folks in our area. I think actually was present at the time, but there was a fatality in the area. And I don't want to sound dramatic about it. I mean, we need to develop and move forward and so forth, but there's some legitimate concerns here that folks are raising. Thank you.
Okay. All right, you're all set?
I am, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Yes, just step up. Yes, I'm afraid you do.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Kathy Weiss, 106 Gaslight Lane, former trustee for Gaslight 1. Just very quickly, I just want to mention that the rate of expansion on the 106 corridor exponentially exceeds any traffic safety measures. They just don't exist. 106 is a one-lane road, right, both ways. And I just feel it's incredibly irresponsible. So we've been promised a light at the end of Paquonicket. You know, we're promised traffic studies, et cetera, but there's so much development up and down 106 because of the sewer connection that it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And nothing has been done about it, nothing. And so all of these properties and businesses are being built up, and yet we're still dealing with the same street and the same logistics. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Marcia Nodell. I'm a trustee for Easton Condominiums. We abut this proposed restaurant. So we will bear a great deal of the brunt of this development. We're not opposed to development if it was just a restaurant. That would be one thing. This is going to be open morning, noon, and night. I don't know what hours, but you said breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then, of course, late night. College kids coming. The after-hours deliveries are going to affect us. The lights from the drive-through will illuminate our backyard. So we are going to be definitely affected by all of this. We're not opposed to development. It's what is being developed. We're putting an apartment building on the other side of Greenwood Village Road. We did not oppose that. We're putting other things down the street. This area was supposed to be mixed use, not all fast food restaurants and drive-thrus and honky-tonks. Mixed use would be lovely, so we could go to things, there would be people walking around, but this is not it. It's going to impact the traffic. We will not be able to get out of our driveway. It's hard enough now. You have that right turn only on Foundry Street. There's not enough clearance to our driveway for us to even pull out because there'll be cars pulling out too close to us. It just doesn't make sense. And the traffic numbers that were on the report, the 20,000, that's from a 2006 traffic study. So the numbers just don't make sense. I don't know how many cars have to go through the drive-through to make this a profitable restaurant. But you're going to have a lot of cars going through. It's not going to be a sit-down restaurant. You have, what, 13 parking spaces? That's for employees and customers. That's not very many. So those are my complaints. Noise, privacy, trash. Now, extra noise because there'll be after-hours deliveries. There's just, I mean, we have a Burger King across the street. We never hear them. We never smell them. They don't have a curb cut onto Foundry Street. There are other things that have no curb cuts onto Foundry Street. Somebody mentioned the bank before. The bank's drive-through, they only have one road in and out of the bank. They don't have these multiple roads going in and out. So you can't compare the things. Those are the things I have to say.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Alice McCow, 25 Gaslight Lane, which is Gaslight 1. My concern is the interest issue. Putting something else that brings any kind of traffic, there's already too much. There's no left turn signal when you're coming out from downtown to make a left on the boundary. It all backs up, and with these entrances, I just imagine people might go straight instead of turning left. It's just, you know, and then coming out of Bay Road, coming north. When we were under construction for the sewer, we had a left turn signal. So if you're coming home off of 495 up Bay Road, there's no left turn signal. So the intersection really, the design of it cannot handle any more traffic. And then they were saying about the right turn when you're coming down Depot, the right lane is only for a right turn. So anyone wanting to go onto Foundry either has to, you know, they have to wait because the traffic's coming off of Bay Road. So the whole intersection, there aren't enough lanes. And the other morning, it's like, I have a hard time getting out, and then I'm going left. And like they were saying about the speed, the other morning, the light turned orange, and then went to red. And 2 cars ran the light to make their left onto Depot. So it's already a very dangerous intersection with people dodging around because there's not enough lanes. And I have to agree as far as, I like Taco Bell too. And I thought, oh good, it's Taco Bell, but where is it going? It's just the fact it's so close to the intersection. I think that's the biggest issue. There's already, like the woman before said, all these driveways going into the bank, into Shaw's Shopping Center. You know, then now we have the new apartment building going on the other side of the bank. And there's so much, so it draws everybody to that area. And that intersection just can't handle it. We finally kind of fixed it. You know, when I first moved here, it was awful. We went through a couple of iterations and finally it seemed like it was working better, but the increase in traffic already, we can't handle it. So
That offer for a mint still there.
the proximity to the actual.
Thank you. Just, sir, remember to give us your name and address.
I'm from 4 Lamplighter Lane, and I appreciate the fact that the appeals board has this hearing to give everybody an opportunity to say what needs to be said regardless of what side we might be on. We can agree to disagree and do it certainly with the dignity that it deserves. I did want to say that I also like taco. My family would be happy to hear that. But I just disagree with the location. My concern happens to be traffic control. My concern is also safety. We have fire apparatus that comes up that hits that light, and sometimes they're speeding and they have to get to the emergency. So I throw that in as food for thought. And I say to each and every one of you here, I'm not going to repeat all the things that Dale took out of my remarks because I don't want to tie you up any longer than you have to be here. But I appreciate everybody giving their sense worth. I hope that there'll be some consideration to another location. I live at Gaslight Village 2. It takes me quite a while to get out, whether I take a left, and now it may be a right. But I ask you and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
You're welcome, sir.
Hi, I'm Ed Hans, 20 Purchase Street, which means I don't live in Furnace Village, although I once did. But I do a lot of business down there. My automotive repair shop is just up the street on Bay Road. And there's been many a time when I have walked back to my house along the nice sidewalk, but it's death-defying to get across this intersection. And I can't imagine with cars flowing in and out on the side that I've been walking on, whether it's going to get any easier or not. Let me hold off on that. I'm a member of the Historical Commission, and I'm not speaking for the commission, but I do have some information to supplement Walter's good presentation about the demo delay bylaw. We are having a meeting tomorrow night to determine whether the house on the property is worth preserving. The complicating factor there is that the corner of the property, from my review of the map at Mass Historical Commission today, is in the National Register District. So you got that, plus a house which isn't a whole lot different than some of the houses that are already in the Bay Road Historic District. So I'm not predicting how the Historical Commission might vote, but it is a complicating factor. It's not a done deal. Speaking to the traffic, I shop down here all the time. Less so at the end of the month when Walgreens goes out, but it's a devil to get in and out of that shopping center now. And it's not a good argument to say, yeah, there's a million drive-throughs. Let's add another one. Back in the old simple days of Easton, the mantra for development was, we're in favor of mixed-use development. We just don't want to look like Stoughton. Okay. People in Stoughton did not like that very much, but you know what I mean. Look at that 138 strip. It's not very pretty. And if you take a look at the proposal for the Taco Bell, it's not adding a beautiful building to the edge of a historic district. How much of this creep are we going to put up with in Furnace Village, where people want to live in a historic neighborhood, want to be able to walk, and want to have some restaurants that, I'm not a fan of Taco Bell. I've been doing some research today, and like Walter, I won't eat there.
I didn't say I wouldn't eat there, I said I haven't. Let's be clear about that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Virginia Moore Murray, and I grew up at that house on 482 Foundry Street.
Cool.
And I moved there in 1958 when there weren't any lights there, and there were no developments, and there were no restaurants, and it was called the Boondocks. And I hated it because it was so empty for a teenager. So I feel bad for the people who now have trouble getting out of their street. I do genuinely feel bad. But Mom's house has been empty for 3 years. I am thrilled to see Taco Bell show an interest in developing the corner because it certainly looks ugly right now. That empty lot, the barren lot, my mother's house is deteriorating, and Ed, save your time, it's not worth saving. It's not historic. Wasn't built in the historic period that will be eligible. So I do know that. So we're going to tear it down one way or the other. But it's not going to be there, and it's never going to be a single-family house again. It is not fixable. So, yes, I hate speaking in public, but, and I know you're all here for your own reasons, and I understand and appreciate that. I have friends here, so I'm not, again, I want to make sure that this is pro or con, and we have our opinions about things. I drive through the Five Corners all the time. All different times of the night. I took care of Mom on and off for 5 years, and I was going through there at all times of the day, busy traffic time or not. I don't have trouble getting through there, maybe because I don't know why, except coming down from Target, down 106 after work time, it takes me more time. But I also go to Boston. There's a lot of traffic there too. I guess my point is, I've had to take a right turn sometimes coming out of my mother's driveway because of oncoming traffic. I get that. But it's not, to me, it was not a big deal. I would turn right. I would sometimes go through and come out on Depot Street. I would sometimes do a U-turn and come out to the light. I learned to deal with traffic. My mom paid the betterment tax. She is still paying the betterment tax, although she died 3 years ago. We're paying taxes on it. We're paying that betterment still. It's been empty for 3 years. I think Taco Bell has a very good plan. I go by the 138 Taco Bell all the time. I don't see traffic dumping out onto the street. 138's a really busy street, and it's between two sets of lights. And I go to the church in Rainham, and my Rainham friends say it's not a problem for them. They don't have any trouble with traffic back up at that Taco Bell on 138. I think in the first month or so, while it's new, I think there could be more traffic. I think people will be looking at it. But I don't think in the long term, at all times of the day, it's going to be awful. And with all the building residential going around behind it and up on Foundry Street, it is very walkable down the sidewalk to, well, there's not, sidewalk doesn't go all the way down, but it is walkable to get there, and I think people will appreciate that. I know a lot of the kids are in favor of it, and you may not want teenagers hanging around, but you know what? I don't even eat Taco Bell, but I will, because now they have vegetarian stuff. So I'm all happy about that, I'm hoping. But, I mean, the bottom line is, the property is not gonna stay the same it always has been. Something is gonna go in there. I hope it's Taco Bell. If it's not Taco Bell, it's gonna be another business. It's gonna be more traffic. It's gonna still want two egresses onto Bay and onto Foundry. So, you know, I don't know what else to say. I would like to see it sold. I'm in favor of the Taco Bell plan. I think they have done their due diligence. They have really, really responded to a lot of the issues that we brought up. I think traffic is the main one, but I know that they will not build there if they are not allowed to have a drive-through. And it's like, I feel like, why should we be penalized because everybody else has a drive-through? Why now can we not have the drive-through at the property I'd like to sell? Why not? Can't we work this out? Can't we figure out a way that makes it workable? And so I guess that's all I have to say. I think I've run out of steam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
My name's John Murray. I also live at 62 Allen Road with Virginia. And I know there's a lot of people who have issues with what's going on here. I think I understood and liked the presentation very much, and I will eat at Taco Bell also. A lot of people had suggestions of what shouldn't be there. I heard a whole lot more of that than things that should go there. And for the past 3 years, you know, the sale of this property isn't a big moneymaker. It's not a little moneymaker. It's, you know, there's an elderly woman who lived there many years who had health expenses, and there's liens and that sort of thing. So I haven't heard any good suggestions of what it could be, or who's going to take the responsibility and follow through on that. So if there's something that's really good, I'd love to hear it, although it's not my property, so I guess I can say that. But it's been 3 years where we haven't heard a peep, and it's cost tens of thousands of dollars for expenses, and that sounds very selfish, but that's kind of where it is. I would have loved to have heard other suggestions over the years, but we haven't got them. We've got a couple. I mean, who's got the money to come in and buy that and put in a garden? Or put in a, I've heard a suggestion of a pot dispensary would be better. And so, I almost feared hearing that, but, you know, there might be some people that want that. So I just think that this is a responsible employment, taxes to the town. I think the traffic, that right turn on Foundry, that's how I have to get out of that driveway every time I get out. And that's been like 10 years or more. So it's safer now, if you ask me, because they make you go up to the right instead of having to look and am I going to like take my life in my hands trying to take the left turn? So I like the idea, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. How many more people want to weigh in on this?
Well, I wasn't
Okay, just, could everybody raise their hands that want? All right, the hour's getting late. It's 8:07. I'm not saying that to cut off anybody's right to comment, but you've sat through a lot of the public comments already, and to the extent that you're just going to repeat what's already said, I'd ask you to refrain from that and to limit yourself to something that might be new or a little different.
Yeah, Denise Higgins for New Pond Way. I think the reason why you're hearing so many people is because they have a great interest in this area. So I hope that even if it's a snippet that you do hear them out. I do want to bring up something unique. This area is truly unique. It is a historic district. It's old. It was not officially planned. It has a lot of warts and barbs. Primarily, it's traffic. It was created by small individual lots. This is Easton, and we own it. This is an Easton issue. This isn't easily fixable, although we know that there is a master plan, and 10 years down the road, we have some expectation of it being corrected. But in the 10 years that it's going to take for this to be fixed, the residents here are going to endeavor that intersection and that roadway. And I don't need to say, because you've heard it 100 times already tonight, that Foundry Street is this narrow area with trees overhead and so forth. I want to bring up the DPW and safety complex that are not going to be located too far away from this. It was brought up that Aroma Joe's just received, but you have to remember that was a prior bank and had a drive-through. The one thing that I want to do, and make this very brief, I want you to picture this. So this proposal here is built on 3/4 of an acre. That's less than what we have as a residential building lot of 40,000 square feet in town. This is 3/4 of that building lot. Now, when I entertain, and I actually have a unique, unusual lot, but if you picture a 40,000 square foot lot, and you have people coming or going to your property for a birthday or any celebration, you understand what the dynamic is just on a 40,000 square foot lot. Now let's add to that the fact that we have moving parts here and people that are intentionally purchasing food because they are in a hurry. And the pieces that are going out, in and out on a very busy street into an intersection. I just want to make that a little pictorial for people to understand what we're talking about. There are a few tenets of which you have at your disposal as a board for consideration in this special decision. And I want to leave you with one. You have within your power to understand the request would not pose a substantial detriment to the public. And if you can approve this and answer that it won't pose a substantial detriment to the public, then I defer to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary Landry, 15 Paquonicket. I'm more driven by data, and I'm hearing a discrepancy in the traffic report numbers that the traffic engineer gave to the board. I'm not good at capturing like information on the fly, but I think if you could tell me what the greatest number of the highest traffic number that you cited was 10,000 out of all the scenarios?
You can't really ask him questions. I mean,
Okay.
you can make comments.
Okay, so I heard something like 10,000, but I also knew this other report was like 27,000, and why does the discrepancy exist? So I just want to make sure that the traffic report or the data that you guys use to determine that traffic marries up those two that big difference. Is it, was this data only on Bay Road because that's the driveway that they want in and out of or whatever, compared to the overall full traffic number of 27,000? Just make sure you do that full consideration rather than just zeroing in on the scope of what is surrounding this particular parcel.
Okay.
Because it's the overall traffic that is really everybody's so emotional about. So
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah.
Sir, did you have something you wanted to say?
Johnson. I live at 641 Foundry Street. I don't have a dog in this race, but I sympathize with you. I'm having enough issues with them building a gas station in a residential section on Highland Street. That's a different matter altogether. My point is two things. We've seen the stacking that's happened at the Dunkin' Donuts, but that road is wide enough to handle it. If you ever have stacking on Bay Road from this particular site, you're not gonna be able to get around it. You're gonna have people lined up behind them, and you're gonna have an issue right there and then. The other thing that I've heard is about drive-throughs. And the only thing I can say about that is, yes, there are drive-throughs, and there have been drive-throughs for a long time. But when is enough with the drive-throughs? It's just a nice piece of land, but I don't think something like this should be going there. And like I said, I live 2 miles up the road, but I have to travel through that Five Corners intersection. And for 30 years now, it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better. I know with the sewerage, I know what the redesign of the road was, but it's just not, as far as I'm concerned, this isn't feasible for this particular spot.
Thank you. Before you get started, is anyone else?
This will be quick.
All right, please.
Diane
'Cause-
Lasardi, 5 Lamplighter Lane, Gaslight Village 2. I live in that nightmare, getting in and out of the driveway is horrendous. But I want to point out, Bay Road, just beyond where that entrance to the Taco Bell would be, there's a fire station. And if there should be any cars waiting to get in or waiting to get out or whatever, it could impact the emergency vehicles. It's too close. That's it.
Thank you.
My name is Laura. I live actually right next door to where this is gonna go, and I oppose it for all the reasons everybody else has said, but one of the things that I do is I walk my dog behind.
I'm sorry, you know what? You said your name's Laura. What's your last name?
Oh, sorry, Lollygate.
Thank you.
And I think it's Greenwood Village. It's very peaceful and it's very nice, but I feel that with this going in, people are gonna use that as a cut-through, because they're not gonna wanna sit at the light. Sorry, I don't speak in public very often. So I feel that for them living in there, it's gonna be a cut-through, so they can go through Greenwood Village and go, take a right and then go into that main entrance there, which is, I think, gonna be a safety thing, not only for the people that live in that condominium with all these people now cutting through, but now you're gonna get backup, more people going on to Bay Road. That's all I want to bring up.
Okay.
Maria Wilson, 16 South Street. I work just past Target on Eastman Street, a half a mile from my house. It takes me 12 minutes to go a half a mile at 3:45 at night. The bus going to Tanglewood backs up because all the kids get out, and there's 2 stops there. Now you're going to include a drive-through at the same intersection is just going to cause a huge backup even more. And my other concern is that we've had tremendous building in our area that we've endured. We have Sawmill Village that is currently being built, that we don't know the repercussions of how many cars are going to impact us. We also have Old Foundry being built. That's still being built. I mean, the traffic on South Street has increased tenfold, and only half the houses have been built. We have the dentist office that is currently being made into mixed use and apartments upstairs and mixed use downstairs. So that traffic is going to be all in that same area. And then a little further down by Tanglewood is going to be another apartment building. Is like, when is enough for us? And my other point is that I don't oppose Taco Bell. I know the kids love it. But when you put a Taco Bell and a fast food restaurant there at that corner, that's going to dictate what other establishments decide to go into that area. I understand that Sunoco is being sold. I also understand that Burger King is going to become Chipotle, and that's going to include a huge crowd in itself. So it's gonna, if we have a Taco Bell there, we're going to have all fast food restaurants there. And I can tell you that going to Dunkin' Donuts, if you go up there in the morning, the traffic is backed up tenfold. Well, all the high school kids going up to get their Dunkin' Donuts, they put it on their app, they can't stay in the line that's in the drive-through, so they like literally dump their cars in the parking lot, and there's 10 to 15 cars backed up there on a given day during, just before school starts. So I'm really hoping that you take all of these things into consideration. That whole intersection is a nightmare. Taking a left onto 106 from Bay Road is a nightmare. And the only place that actually turns smoothly is a right on Bay Road. And now you're going to put a drive-through there. So I'm just asking you to really consider not allowing a drive-through. I know Aroma Joe's was there, that drive-through was already existing in a bank, and I know that the Planning and Zoning Board put them through the ringers for their drive-through, and that was already existing. So I'm just hoping that we can really come to an agreement that we should not be allowing drive-throughs, any more drive-throughs in this area, because it's just too much. The 106 is never going to be any bigger. It's just gonna stay the same. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think at this point, I'm gonna close the public comment period. It doesn't seem like anybody who wanted to weigh in was deprived of the opportunity of doing so. And we know that we have this peer traffic study coming up, correct? It seems to me that we need to continue this hearing so that we can get that report in. So that everybody understands, the public comment period is closed. The board will consider the question after we get this peer review, and then if there are additional questions, they'll be asked then, and then we may have a vote on this. So, yes, sir.
If you would indulge me to give me 3 minutes to address some of the comments that were made. I don't want to get into traffic. I agree, traffic is something that should be put forth and discussed at the next meeting when you have your expert to weigh in. And then
Sure.
we'll have to address those, but I think there were a lot of comments that were made that I would like to address, and I'll be as brief as I can.
Sure, go right ahead. And again, just for the
Understood.
purposes of recording everything, if you could.
I understood, I get it. I'm going to carry a lot of these things with me. No, not necessary. I appreciate it. So first, I grew up in Easton. I've been in Easton since 1979. I know I look old. Wasn't born in Easton, been here for a long time. Appreciate everything everybody's saying, understand traffic. Again, traffic we'll deal with when we get some experts. I chaired this board for 20 years. I sat on the master plan steering committee. I was heavily involved in that. I sat on the I've worked with people like Mr. Hands for a long time. I have the utmost respect for him. I've worked with Dale on this area. Having said all of that, I believe that our client understands the concerns. There'll be consideration of issues like lighting and noise and buffering that will be addressed at site plan approval. That's typically where those things are addressed. Not to say that if this board doesn't want to discuss some of those things, that the applicant is saying we won't discuss them. Of course we'll discuss them. But typically, the focus of those things is done at site plan approval. I heard a lot of comments tonight that I disagree with, honestly, respectfully. Somebody said something about respectful disagreement, and everything that I'm going to say now, I say respectfully. I don't expect you to believe me. I know I'm an advocate here for my client, but again, I've lived in this town for a long time. I have clients that are developing properties in this site, and I've worked a lot on this whole development, rezoning, and so forth in this area. So when people come to town, developers, they look at sites, they look at districts, they rely on the zoning tools, the zoning bylaw, the master plan, those types of things, and they plan their developments accordingly. So I want to point out some things that are from the bylaw that I believe this developer used in planning the project and are very relevant, and I think some of these things were mischaracterized here today. So one of the things I heard a few times was that, well, I want to backtrack for a second. The town of Easton brought municipal sewer to this district. Several years ago, we heard talk about the cost to everybody that lives in the district, every business, everybody paid a betterment fee. And then they're going to pay a fee to connect, and then they're going to pay a fee to use. But one of the biggest drivers of that sewer in the sewer in other parts of town were to encourage development. That's one of the biggest drivers. The second driver, I can't quantify one versus the other, but of course is environmental issues. We got a lot of septic systems, a lot of failed septic systems. We don't want sewage going into our groundwater. That's where our drinking water. But don't discount at all the idea that one of the significant and large drivers was economic development. That's how we keep our services in this town. We derive our income from real estate taxes. The more value we have in these properties, the more the revenue is driven by commercial development, not Mary and Joe homeowner and Walter homeowner. So that's a huge component to this. To take that further, the town of Easton, through the Planning and Zoning Board and a lot of hard work in the Master Plan Steering Committee and the recodification of the bylaw, then took steps to rewrite the zoning bylaw and created a zoning district down in this Five Corners area. In that zoning district, this is where I'm going to go back to where I left off and then said I'm going to start somewhere else. Focuses on certain types of development. And I heard a few people mention the idea of mixed use. I think I actually heard somebody say something about we were promised mixed use. This zoning district is the Furnace Village District. The Furnace Village District, right from the zoning bylaw, that this developer and everybody else and practitioners like me rely upon, says, and I'll quote, facilitate development of commercial and mixed uses. Okay? So this whole zoning bylaw contemplates the idea of commercial and mixed uses. All right? This site is a commercial development. Now, with respect to this sub-district, it talks about the Depot Street sub-district is designated for moderately intensive commercial, again, and mixed uses. I would say to the board that this, putting aside traffic, we'll determine that later. If it turns out that the traffic in this is so intense that it doesn't meet this definition, I'll be the first one to say that. According to the developer's traffic consultant, who was a professional engineer, there's nothing about this traffic that's generated from this site. I'm talking about the entirety of the site, not just the drive-through, that would meet the definition of anything other than moderately intensive. He gave you a standard at one point. I believe he said 100 trips, and he said this is less than that number. And it doesn't become problematic until it's more than that number. But again, I promised I wouldn't talk about traffic. I'm breaking my own promise already. I'm sorry. So the bylaw contemplates commercial development. The bylaw contemplates it in this district, and it contemplates it in this specific sub-district. The Master Plan Steering Committee has lots of objectives with respect to economic development. I'm going to rattle off a few of them. It talks about infill. This is an infill project. It talks about positive economic development. This project will create positive economic development. There has been no argument advanced by anybody that the cost to the town in terms of fiscal impact is going to exceed the revenue that it generates. It talks about taking advantage, creating sewer opportunities and taking advantage of those, creating opportunities for developers to take advantage of that sewer. The town spent all that money, it produced the sewer, developers are coming along, they're trying to use that sewer. This developer is doing exactly that. There are numerous other categories in economic development of the master plan steering objectives and goals that this project meets. Some of the other things I heard, people talking about drive-throughs. First of all, I'm not a member of the public, I'm the applicant.
No, I've closed, no, sir, I've
So-
closed the period of, well, we haven't closed the hearing yet. He's the applicant, he's responding to the comments that were made. Well, I haven't been timing it, but
I can wrap up pretty quickly.
this is totally appropriate, under the circumstances.
So with respect to drive-throughs, the number of drive-throughs in the area are important because one of the standards is that you develop the property and you be considerate of the neighborhood character. The neighborhood character includes numerous other drive-throughs, including one that was permitted not by the Planning and Zoning Board, but by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm talking about Aroma Joe's. That was permitted 2 years ago. I heard talk about it being a bank before with a drive-through. The Bank of Easton had not operated at that location in years. Years. Under the principles of zoning, when you give up or you don't use something that's no longer allowed for 2 or more years, you lose your right. So when this board granted that special permit, they were treating it as though it was a new. They were not considering that the Bank of Easton had a drive-through there before. That grandfathered drive-through was gone. They lost their right to do that. That's why the Aroma Joe's had to come back to this board and apply for a new special permit. What the planning board gave them approvals for had nothing to do with the drive-through. That's Board of Appeals. So drive-throughs are relevant, and our argument is it's consistent with the character of the neighborhood because there are numerous drive-throughs. So a couple of other comments, and then I'll let everybody go home because I know nobody wants to listen to me anymore. I heard talk about the size of the lot, right? The size of the lot is 3/4 of an acre. Historically, in a business zone, historically throughout the town, lot size was 40,000 square feet. The setbacks were greater in a business zone, which is what this property was zoned before this new zoning came along, than what the bylaw requires now. So the bylaw used to be 40,000 square feet. Now it's 15. This lot is 32,910 square feet. This lot is more than double what the bylaw requires. This lot is being developed in a way that meets every other zoning requirement. It exceeds some of the setbacks, it meets the other ones. It exceeds the parking requirements. It is consistent with the requirements of the zoning bylaw. I understand the argument that people make who live in the area, who live in the town. Again, my disagreement with everybody here that I just addressed is respectful. But what this board has to consider is the terms and the language in the zoning bylaw. And that's what we tried to design the project based upon, and that's what we're going forward. So the last thing I'm going to say is I believe, and I don't think it was intentional, that the standard for granting a special permit was miscategorized. Mischaractered, I'm sorry. The language, and I read it at the beginning because I think it's really important that the board consider this. Special permits shall be granted by the Special Permit Granting Authority, again, this board, only upon its written determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and the proposal in relation to that site. You gotta focus on the site, you gotta focus on the area, and you gotta weigh what is really bad about it in relation to the special permit that's being requested, and does that outweigh what is good about it?
Thank you.
And that's the standard. Thank you.
Okay.
And I apologize, everybody, I get passionate about these. It's my Italian nature, and again, Dale and I know.
Right. Yeah, so, at this point, considering that we do have to have this
We
peer
request
review done,
continuance.
you are requesting a continuance, so that's fine. So let's consider that. Do I hear a motion to approve a continuance? We do have to pick a date for it, though, and right
I don't know how
now,
it impacts our choice on dates, but there's a strong possibility I won't be here in June.
in June? Okay. Well, as it happens, we already have 4 variances scheduled for that night.
Is that June 7th?
11th.
June 11th, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right here.
Right? Yeah, so the dates would be June 11 or July 9. And I think that there was some comment that it could take upwards of 4 weeks to complete the study. So we might not, I mean, it might be ready by June 11, or it might not be. So,
So is it our motion or the
Well, no, I mean,
applicant's request?
the applicant's requesting a continuance. It's a question of whether or not we're going to schedule it for the date in June or a date in July.
It's really at the
Say
pleasure of the
July.
chair.
Yeah, well, no, I'm glad that you pointed out to me that you're not available in June, so,
I may not be available.
okay. Well,
Strong possibility.
okay,
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
sure.
I think it's the board's intention, and I don't want to speak for the board, to limit the discussion to traffic, right?
Right, that's-
Unless you have some follow-up questions, so.
No.
It could be a fairly brief meeting. What I would request is that we continue it to the June meeting, and if for some reason, Mr. Watson is not available, or the traffic peer review is not in, we'll
Right.
simply agree to another extension. Given the nature of the transaction, and the fact that the property is under agreement, and there are contingencies, due diligence periods, closing dates, dates matter to us, as opposed to if they owned it, it'd be.
Right.
So if you could do that, that would be great. If you can't, obviously, we respect your decision.
Yeah, no, and just so that you understand, I did mention that we have 4 variances. We also have slotted in, starting at 7 PM that night, a continued hearing on the special permit application by RK Realty Trust, who's trying to develop the gas station
Seemed crowded.
at the Highland Plaza, which somebody earlier alluded to. That's, I don't know if we're going to need a bigger room. Yeah, we
We're gonna
have.
need a bigger room.
Yeah, no. I know that's a line from a movie, I just don't know which one.
It's a bigger boat.
I'm just
Jaws.
telling you that
I
they
appreciate
have the
that.
7 o'clock. That could go quite a while.
I appreciate it, yep.
So while we would, if we were going to continue this to June 11, it would be slotted for 7:10 PM in this room.
But it wouldn't stop.
The chances of it starting at 7:10 PM are pretty slim.
Fair enough.
None.
But, well, I don't know. We don't know. I mean, these variances could go off. I mean, stuff
that's true,
happens.
yeah.
It's just that, you know.
Fair enough. I
All right.
appreciate the honesty.
All
Yep.
right, so should we just, does someone want to make a motion to continue the hearing to June 11 at 7:10 PM at the Simmons Lecture Hall at the Oliver
I
Ames
don't
High
wanna
School?
make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, anyone second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, why don't we take a vote by hand? Everyone in favor, say aye or raise their hand. That's 4.
Be there, so I don't think I can vote for it.
Well,
So it's 4-1.
it's 4-1. I mean, we can,
It still passes.
yeah, it passes, and also the chair should be available that day, and I think he can review the Mullen, the tape and sit in, so we would have 5 people. So, anyway, that motion is carried, so we'll see you on June 11 at 7:10 PM.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We should have got this other guy out of the way
Go
a
to the
long
next
time
one?
ago.
Yeah.
Poor bastard.
I went to my one assessors meeting.
Did you get,
I got elected.
you got elected town assessor?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So I now run the town.
It's, no,
I run the town from A to Z.
there's no need to apologize.
Congratulations
That's the
very
stuff
much.
I've been doing for 50 years.
If we
If
weren't
nothing
mic'd
else,
up, we'd be
like-
like, you know, looking for special favors and stuff. I'm just kidding. Thank you very much. Thank you.
But there's no TV.
There's no,
There's
at
no-
the assessors meetings?
Yeah, it's just.
It's not
in a-
public?
It's public, but nobody,
It's gonna get taken.
Where did they meet?
in the meeting room in the town hall.
The Corona meeting that we meet in?
No, there's a
The
little
one
meeting.
upstairs?
No, there's one to the right of.
Yeah,
the
I know
town
which one
clerk.
you're talking
Yeah.
about.
We are gonna have, we're meeting before the town meeting, someplace in the school here.
Well, if I'm ever in the neighborhood, I'll come say hi.
Okay.
This poor guy.
Yeah, I was gonna stay.
We got one more.
Next point. I'm not gonna come in tomorrow.
We have another. Okay.
No problem.
I don't mean to rush the chair, but I feel like rushing the chair.
You want to, want me to read the next one in?
Well, we gotta wait till the after.
I'm in there. Hello.
Ah, this is more like it.
Okay.
That you guys have adjourned, I'm sorry.
No, we haven't, we have our next
Sorry, I
hearing.
thought you were all done.
No, that's, maybe you'll wanna stay and watch and,
Just be a lot of these things that were late.
yeah, that's all right.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Yes.
Seemed like a quick one.
It got
yeah.
continued.
I paid you back.
Yeah, there's more to come. Okay. All right, so now, we're at the, we're now, oh, I'm looking at the wrong agenda, forgive me. Okay, now we're, the next item that the board's gonna take up is, an application for a special permit submitted by H&D LLC for property located at 7 Lois Lane. This was the hearing that was scheduled for 6:45 under the agenda. Jeremy, who's the clerk, would you read the application into the record, please?
Sure. Town of Easton public hearing. The Easton Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 7th at 6:45 PM at Oliver Ames High School, Simmons Lecture Hall, 100 Lothrop Street, Easton, Mass. On the following petition, special permit H&D LLC for a property located at 7 Lois Lane, Easton, Mass. Assessors map 40U, Lot 14B for a special permit pursuant to Easton Code Book, Chapter 235, zoning section 235-56, and Appendix A-1, Table of Use Regulations E18. Commercial recreation indoors to allow an indoor pickleball facility. This notice is also available on masspublicnotices.org. We've received comments Affordable Housing Trust, not applicable. Board of Health, incomplete. Notes that the Board of Health or the Health Department will need an approved septic plan. Perk tests have been done already, otherwise incomplete. The Building Department recommends, the environmental planner indicates incomplete and notes this project will require a wetland permit. Fire Department, no comment. Historical Commission, not applicable. Planning and Zoning Board recommended. Police Department, complete. Water Division, no comment.
Okay. It's so quiet here now.
Is that a good thing?
Yes, I think so. So, are all three of you planning to make some comments, or is one of you going to make the presentation? Okay, and the way we've been doing this, it all has to get recorded, so you can either, if you want to use the microphone and kind of work off your notes from the table, or get to the podium.
See if this
See if
holds
it
up.
works, I don't know. Does that work? Good. Good.
Trying to go around that. So this is my crowd?
Okay, just before you get started, make sure you give us your full name and
Yep.
and address.
Yep, Todd Texera, 3 Spooner Street, Easton, Mass. So I'm here, like you said, for a special permit to change the usage. 7 Lois Lane for an indoor pickleball facility. We'll be doing 8 indoor courts with pro shop, food and beverage. Over there, we'll have tournaments, lessons, camps, leagues, court rentals, and open play. The occupancy load is 240. Hours of operation will be 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. Food and beverage will be 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. and key card access after hours for special members. Number of employees, I have 7 employees, 3 owners. Number of members that we feel we're getting will be 250 members with 100 key card access. The social impact, the construction of the indoor facility will be dedicated to people of all ages to engage in physical activity and socialize. I think it will enhance the community engagement economically too. It will bring an indoor facility, which I know sometimes you get a little complaints for the outdoor noise. So that, and we're in New England, so I don't have to explain weather. So like an indoor facility would be nice. Traffic and parking, we have ample parking. Site has 70 parking spaces with 3 handicap ADA spaces. Utilities, all existing, water, electric, gas services on site, ready for tie-in. And then as far as neighborhood, we're gonna have a brand new building on a stretch of road in town that's, to me, starting to get redone, come a long way. And I think this will be another positive addition to it. And then environmental impacts, obviously we have a brand new building that's gonna be up to new codes and a new septic system, which will have positive environmental impacts. Then as far as financial impacts, obviously we'll have the tax for the town and employment and a facility to go to. That's everything I have.
Okay. Do either one of your colleagues have anything they want to add?
I'm the owner of the property. They're leasing the property once we get the building up.
Okay. All right. For the record, I'll ask the question, are there any members of the public that want to ask any questions? Seeing none, why don't I open it up to the board?
Thank you. My eyesight's going these days.
Mine too.
Are there locker room facilities?
So there is a changing room. So we have 2 changing rooms and bathrooms.
Separate from the restrooms? I mean, the.
Yes, yep. So 2 separate changing rooms with a shower in each one. Yep.
And the only other question I think I have is you talked about the key access for 100 patrons. Was that after hours, meaning after midnight? So you're going to have special parties?
No, it was more this is just for play. For just, so not for.
No, I know, but you're going to play at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning. Is that the idea?
Yeah,
You could do
yeah.
that. And I know people would.
Yeah, more geared, we were thinking more geared for, a 3 a.m. to that, but yeah, there will be some doctors, lawyers, people who work after hours, fire.
Ron?
What is the height of the building going to be?
So the total height is 35, I believe, is it 32?
24 inside, so maybe 26.
Is that what it is?
And this is,
37.9 to the peak.
That was
24.8. Correct.
Yeah.
No, it's understandable. 37.9 to the peak.
Yeah.
so it's high enough that when the fad fades, you can use the building for warehousing?
Built with the most dark doors that are going to be in it. So, we've obviously wanted success for them.
Right.
A lot of years, but it's built as a warehouse. It's the exact same footprint that was always there.
Yeah.
As a warehouse, we're just replacing the exact same building.
Okay. And I don't mean to interrupt, but you are making a comment on the record. Could you just, for the record, tell us your full name and address?
Al Drunas, 95 Dorchester Street, Quincy, Mass.
Thank you, Mr. Andreas. Ron?
That was my only concern.
Ed?
I only have the one question in regard to the environmental planner saying this will require a wetland permit. On your map, or maybe on my map, can you show me where the wetland boundary is? I think it's right here, limit of bordering vegetated wetlands. Is that it? Hold on a second. I'm gonna come up and look at the big one, because I'm having trouble reading that one.
Yep.
Do you know where that? It's this right here, right?
No, that's a detention pond.
Okay,
But there is some wetlands over here.
over here.
So we're still, and that's what we're
I'm
trying to
just
work out.
curious as to why you need the permit.
Well, we are too.
Yes.
So we're trying to work that out tomorrow. But
Okay.
if we need it, we're gonna get it, but we're not.
It's the same
we're not
footprint and
moving
the
any-
same, as the building you had in there for
Exact same building.
forever.
We're not touching the parking lot, we're not touching.
Okay.
anything.
I apologize for getting up, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
I just
no.
wasn't sure where that boundary
No,
was.
no, that's,
Um,
I mean, maybe, again, for the record, can you just, it might be another page in, or if it's on there, just point to where the wetland area is that was just referred to.
Right in there.
Okay.
yeah. So it's over here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And the applicant seems to think that it's, a
It's over
wetland
there
permit is not
somewhere.
needed? Oh,
Exactly, that's.
Yep.
It's over there somewhere, an approximate location.
But that's not even close to us, but over there's some that are, I'm guessing, 50, 60 feet from the building, but again, we're not.
That's going to be up to the environmental planner. I was just curious, because I know you've been there forever, and why you'd need one now, I don't know. Not our purview.
We got a permit, we did some repairs to the foundation, because when the building caught on fire
Yeah.
and they demoed it, they
Yeah.
damaged all the anchor bolts, so we had to replace all the bolts.
Yeah.
For the new building, so we did get a permit for the building department to do those alterations to the foundation, and at that time, she signed off on it.
it's,
that right
that,
here.
that part isn't our
But that's
purview.
up to us.
That was my only question, Mr.
Whatever we
Chairman.
have, you can rest assured, whatever we have to do,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna do.
Okay. Jeremy?
So, let's see, so you're talking about 8 courts. How many people play pickleball at a time? I've never, I'm not
4 in
familiar.
a court,
So,
usually, or you can play singles, but generally it's 4.
so you might have like 24 or no,
32.
32 people playing at a time.
Yes.
And you said that the occupancy was like 240 or something like that?
Yeah,
So that seems like a lot of people mulling around, no? I mean,
that's our full, not that I think we would ever have those numbers. That's full occupancy.
okay. Well, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is this basically just going to be like a big nightclub or bar or something like that that's,
No, it's a pickleball facility, so we'll just have people playing pickleball. We will have tournaments here and there that will have, you know, bigger crowds than, say, a normal weekday. But,
so there'll be spectators?
yeah, usually if there's a tournament,
Okay.
we'll have spectators and players. And some people play multiple divisions.
Okay, and you said, I think you said in your presentation you were looking to go from 6 AM to midnight?
Yes.
The thing I have here says 7 AM to 11 PM, is that, am I?
Was I supposed to suggest that? I apologize.
Okay, now, again,
Oh, Heather
I'm
takes
such a
Sarah.
stickler,
Yeah.
right?
Heather takes Sarah, 3 Spooner Street, Northeastern.
Thank you. So, right, so just so that there was a little back and forth. The application is for hours of operation from 7 AM to midnight, correct?
6 AM to midnight.
6 AM to midnight.
Oh, I'm sorry, when you said changed it, I thought you meant you changed it from a start time from 6 to 7. You're saying that you've actually changed it from 7 to 6.
Yes.
Yes.
This is what it says here.
Yep,
Because
correct.
on the application that we're looking at, it says that the hours of operation would be 7 AM to 11 PM, 7 days a week, with extended after-hours key entry for specific key card memberships, which you alluded to earlier.
Yes, so we extended 1 hour earlier, 1 hour later.
Did they extend it on actual application?
Yeah, I mean, where did you extend it? I mean, other than to say that,
We
Today.
had discussed it, I didn't know if we did something wrong. 7 to 11, it's fine.
well, I'm not sure I mean, there's notice provisions associated with all this. When these get posted,
Yep,
it's posted so the public can review it and comment on it. If you're making a change at this point in time, I don't know that we can consider that. In fact,
I agree with that.
I don't
Mr.
think we
Chair.
can
I
consider
don't
it.
think we
Right.
can either.
okay, 11,
Being a little polite, but
Yes.
yes.
no, that's.
So now we're
I just
looking it
changed
over
on mine, so we're at 7 AM to 11 PM.
towards 7 AM.
Right.
Good catch, Jeremy.
And I guess I'd say I'm just thinking out loud here, the extended hours for key card access, that sounds a little, for special members, it sounds a little nebulous to me. Can you explain what you mean by that a little bit more, or, I mean,
Pay additional money and have a separate membership to have key card access. And then it will, pretty much the building, they will only have access to the courts and to the restrooms. The rest of the facility will be closed off and locked.
Kind of like that Anytime Fitness used to do.
Correct.
Yes, so they won't have access to anything but the bathrooms and the courts themselves.
okay. Are we supposed to be giving, I don't know the answer, are we supposed to be giving any consideration to the alcohol portion of this, or?
Well, I mean, they've, as I understand it, they have gotten the permit to serve alcohol.
So what is,
Said in the application.
so you have a permit, can you explain, what's the
Well, they
permit
have a
allow?
liquor license.
We have a liquor license that we already went in front of the board. They did approve it, and it's now gone to the state.
Okay, and is that for any certain hours, or does it?
They did ask.
Really?
Restricted within town regulation, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it's restricted after 1, but I don't know.
1 AM. When you say restricted after 1, meaning 1 AM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the town restricts it, not the state.
Yeah, each municipality gets to set their own rules when it comes to that. There's it's a lot of discussion about that across the state. But anyway.
So, are we supposed to be deciding if they should be allowed to serve liquor at 11 PM or 10 PM, or, I mean, is that in our purview, or is that part of our?
To limit the hours of liquor?
I don't know, I mean, are we even supposed to consider that? I don't know.
Limit
Does
the
anyone
hours.
know?
Are we deliberating?
No, I'm just at,
I'm
well,
not- I don't even know. Did we
I'm just trying to.
close?
No.
We're not.
I'm just thinking,
Okay.
I guess I'm just thinking out loud here.
Okay.
I mean, we can set conditions, but they have to be conditions that call for us to construe the statutes and the zoning ordinance. And I don't know that there's a specific ordinance that talks about how long somebody can serve alcohol at what amounts to a private club.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be open to the public from 7 AM to 11 PM. So that's when there is public access.
Is
I mean, what goes on when it's private, I don't know that that's something that falls within the zoning board of appeals purview.
Theoretically, they could bring a cooler.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm trying to figure out. So are you charging admission to get into the, like, how do you charge to get in?
Like a membership.
There's memberships, there's gonna be open play where they can rent courts, there's gonna be leagues, tournaments that they have to pay for. So that food and beverage access will be obviously to the people that come, the customers that come.
So the people who are not playing but are just the spectators, do they pay to get in?
No.
No.
So they
So
just,
it is open to the public
so they just come in and buy food and drink?
Yes.
if they want.
And watch pickleball.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we can, I suppose, refer the question about the service of alcohol to town council.
May I ask another question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, no, please, go ahead.
You mentioned that you would have applied to the town and they approved it, the alcohol permit,
Yes.
and now it's going to the state.
ABCC, yep.
Do you have a copy of the permit that was approved by the town? There may be, I'm just thinking there may be some information to glean off
I
of
thought
that.
I thought I saw.
I did
that
not see
somewhere.
it in this package,
I possibly did do an attachment and send it.
because I think Mr. Kay brings up a very important point.
I think I did after the fact.
And I want to say that hours of operation of a bar are restricted by the town, but I do not know what those restrictions are. But I know there must be restrictions, or else we'd have all-night bars all over town.
I mean, I'm just thinking.
I grew up here, and there aren't any.
None that I've found yet.
I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't have any problem with pickleball, but I'm just wondering if we're just rubber stamping like a Gillette Stadium kind of thing here.
Okay, well, I mean, that's something we can discuss during the deliberation period.
Okay.
I mean, do you have a question that you want to ask? or-
Well, I guess that's my question. I'm asking myself.
Okay.
Did you self-answer yet?
It hasn't answered yet. It hasn't been answered yet.
Maybe it's getting late, Jeremy.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One of the things, when I was looking at the documents that were submitted, there's a copy of a triple net commercial lease. And there was one thing that caught my eye. I don't know if you have a copy of it, but it's on page 4 of the lease. It's clause 8, lesser construction and lessee fit out. And the clause 8 starts on page 3, it goes on to page 4, and the very last paragraph on page 4 talks about what the lessee shall be responsible for. And it says, lessee shall be responsible for the following improvements and modifications. And the very last portion of that clause says, and installation of outdoor pickleball courts. So my question is, I know, is there some plan to be installing outdoor pickleball courts at this facility?
As of right now, no.
Okay, as of right now. Is that something that's being contemplated?
Possibly down the line, but with the noise variances, we haven't. Right now, it's just strictly going to be an indoor facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's something that I flagged, because that would be of concern. Only, and it's going to lead to my next question, but one of the constant refrains that you hear when it comes to people complaining about pickleball is the noise. You've got the wooden racket, the plastic ball, boink, 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 and it becomes an issue. And, we're obviously here to pass on the application or the request for a special permit for indoor, but it seems like you might, if the business is successful, you might decide that you want to have outdoor courts on the property.
We just wanted to have the option possibly down the line. We obviously know that if that's something that we were to do, we would have to go for approval. But right now, that's not what we're going to do. But in our lease, we did want to have the option if possible.
Okay.
But we know we would have to get, obviously,
Right.
your approval.
And you did acknowledge that noise sometimes is an issue. Is there anything in the I don't know if retrofit is the right word, of the building itself that you're going to put in for noise dampening?
No.
Okay.
Because we're not, right now, just like I said, we have nothing in the plans to do anything outdoors right now, so.
No, I'm talking about
The
for the indoor. In other words,
It's fully insulated.
Yeah.
To today, today's whatever the R values are, codes. So
okay.
The idea of noise transmitting outside, that would be offensive to closest house, which is 500 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Say around 500 feet. Highly unlikely that there'd be any issues with noise.
Okay.
But it is fully insulated.
Right.
It's obviously heated and air conditioned.
Right. And then on the site plan, I'm kind of looking at it from the side here, but you've got the building is on the site plan, and that's where the old foundation was? Right. And how many parking spaces are there going to be for this facility?
So there was a requirement, and I think we exceeded it.
Yeah. I want to say the requirement was 60, and we end up with 70 plus 3, 70 total, sorry, with 3 of them being handicapped.
3 of them being handicapped?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, that's the right word these days.
Handicap accessible.
Right. Okay, and the requirement, as you understood, it was 60.
That's what I was under the
Yeah,
impression you
it was,
wanted like 50
so much per
minutes.
square foot, but I know we exceeded it.
Okay, and where, can you point on the plan where that parking will be?
It's actually on the, it's on that, we got parking here, flow of traffic goes this way, all parking back here, spaces along the side. This is, front is actually the back, with the ADA spots, back by the septic, and then you have some along
So the parking is on the right side of the building, correct?
right and left,
Okay. And-
all around the building, actually.
And what, if all the parking is being used, what is, how many feet separate the parking area from the building?
I got 16 over here, 16 it looks like.
16?
Are you talking on the side?
Yeah, in other words, if some emergency vehicle needed to get in there, is there enough room to maneuver?
Yeah, well, it did go to fire, so I spoke to him and they signed off, so they did see I did talk to the chief and mentioned it.
Well, I don't, when we were looking at the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, the fire department didn't have, there's no comment recorded.
That's right.
Right.
From the fire department.
That's correct.
So that tells me there's no problem, is that correct?
I don't know, I'm not sure that we can conclude that
Oh, okay.
one way or the other.
Yep.
I mean, usually they'll say not applicable or recommended or not recommended. Or, and then sometimes, like you heard, with respect to the environmental plan, it'll say incomplete. Yeah, there's no comment by the fire department. You're telling us that you had a conversation with the fire department?
I did.
You did?
Yep.
When was that?
That was, it was actually a sidebar at my son's rugby game.
Okay.
But formally, no.
All right.
It's one-way traffic, so I think, with the flow being, I mean, that was, obviously it was designed by a registered engineer, used, parking standards for exactly that reason.
Right.
So it wasn't something that we tried to cram in some extra spaces. We really didn't need them, but just wanted to, show that, but I know that we would have designed it for emergency vehicles.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons for a one-way flow type of thing.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, the width, the clearance is 16 feet?
Is that what it says, Bob?
That's 16 right here. Yep.
16 from where the
From
back
the
end of
parking
to the building?
To the building.
So that's
Okay.
if it was a 2 lanes, that's 32, so 24, really
Right.
12 feet really works, so 16 exceeds it by 4 feet.
And do you expect that you'd have signage saying that it's one way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, I don't have any other questions at the moment. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions?
One follow-up, I'm still concerned about the liquor license. I'm concerned, I mean, I'm still not clear on what we touch on if we would approve this. May I just ask if these folks have also gotten approval from the Board of Selectmen, but also from the ABC, what is it, ABBC?
Until we have our final plans and they come and inspect the building and all that, then we will get the final approval from that. It's only been to the town.
I see, okay, thank you.
I've got one question.
Sure, go ahead, Ron.
Is, I looked at the site the other day, and the foundation's on the right. On the left was a landscaper. Is that part of this facility?
No.
Okay,
That's line we're talking.
okay.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
If the state doesn't give you the alcohol permit, how does that impact your business? You're waiting for an application based on plans that, or you had said you're waiting for that application to be reviewed because you'll,
They come and they review the site.
They come and
It's
review the
invested,
site.
And obviously, it's not built, so it's nothing for them to look at right now. But they do quarries and they do background checks and all that. So as of right now, it's.
But they do need to give you some kind of an approval for the license to be considered yours.
Correct.
What if they don't?
Um,
I mean, if they don't have to do anything.
Yeah, and yes, I mean. but
I'm sure it's okay, I'm not bringing anything bad
but
up.
They might come and say we might have to change a couple things or do things.
What if they just said no?
And that's, I don't know.
Would that impact your business significantly?
It will, I would have to go back and do our numbers and our business plan to readjust, yes.
Okay.
And I guess in that situation, assuming that this is approved, if they don't get what they need from the State Alcohol Beverage Commission, they might just decide to pass on the project. I don't know. But you
I don't
did,
know either.
you did explain that you have to have the facility built for them to then come in?
Yes.
Okay.
So they do have our plans, they just have to come out and they inspect and, then they'll sign off on it. They'll tell us if we have to change anything, do anything, but we just have to abide by their guidelines.
Right, and do they usually want to see that you've obtained the approval at the local level from the?
Yes, it goes to the local level first, and then once
Right.
it's, yes. then
And that's part of the application with them, is you have the liquor
Yes.
license from the town?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Jeremy, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm still trying to answer my own questions.
Okay, well, I mean, do you have any
No,
questions of
no.
the applicants?
No.
All right. So, I don't know, is
Is it a motion
anybody
to
prepared to make
close?
a motion to close the hearing? Before I actually put that out there, based on the questions that we've been asking and whatnot, is there anything else that you want to add to this?
No?
Okay. All right, so, anyone care to make a motion to close the hearing?
I so move.
Anyone second?
I'll second it.
All right, why don't we take individual votes? Jean? On the motion to close the hearing.
I'm for it, yes, thank you.
Ron?
For.
That's yes. Ed?
Aye.
Aye.
Jeremy, yes. I vote yes, that's 5. All right, so now we need to have a deliberation about this.
I get to sit there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
no problem, I'm something.
I don't want to cut
Anyone
mine.
have anything they want to say, any comments, any?
I think that I did a little bit of research. I didn't have full access, but I don't have the concerns I did. That I think that these folks will have to comply with the state licensing authority in terms of hours, Sunday hours, hours of operation during the week, and that we're not going to be able to do something separate from that. So I don't think that, but by separate, maybe we could be more restrictive, but I don't think we could be certainly any less restrictive than the state licensing is going to indicate.
Okay.
Do you think all we're dealing with is pickleball? It's really a question of if we're going to approve of pickleball at certain times, basically.
Yeah, I think in all fairness, no. I think that there's something more. There's food and drink. There seems to be there's going to be some sort of congenial atmosphere, kind of maybe a club-like atmosphere. I'm not quite sure, but I didn't get the sense from the applicant that it was going to be a restaurant and then you could watch pickleball. It was just going to be a food service and beverage service that's available for those who are playing pickleball and watching pickleball.
It might be equivalent or akin to what racquetball clubs used to be.
Yeah.
back when racquetball was as popular as pickleball is now, I suppose, a lot of those clubs would have bars, restaurants. I
Yeah.
don't know about, private access and key access and all that, but that's really,
They did for tennis clubs, indoor tennis clubs were the same.
right.
Hockey rinks do it now. A lot of hockey rinks do that.
So
Yeah.
this is just the same kind of
I
thing.
think that, I'm familiar with it, is.
Right. Right. So, you have anything else you
I don't
wanna
have
add?
any concerns. I think that, I believe that there is a real need. I could see this being a successful business because of the increase in activity that I personally have witnessed.
Okay.
And I think that the site seems, it's missing a lot of the concerns that we might have if it had been, for example, right on the street. It's kind of a unique location, having its own lane. It's set aside. It was a pre-existing structure, and I guess the same foundation. So, and I don't have a sense that, I wouldn't know because I've never lived or stood next to a place, but I do know that at Dana Barros, they do play pickleball in the gymnasium kind of structure. It doesn't look too dissimilar to this.
Right.
And I don't believe that I've ever been able to hear the pickleball from the outside being played inside.
Right. Okay.
That's all.
Ron, you have any?
Nothing. Just a little knowledge of tennis, indoor tennis courts, and there's no outside noise, from them. It's a metal pre-engineered building that's insulated, and
Pickleball is louder.
it's still, if it was to be used as a warehouse, there'd be trucks coming in and out making much more noise.
Right. Well, and I don't play pickleball. I can't imagine how noisy it would be inside if the 8 courts were being used by, for games of doubles. So that's 32 people knocking that ball around at the same time indoors. It's up to you, I suppose, from that perspective, how to make it comfortable for people, but I would think it would be pretty noisy.
I think you're gonna get a lot of absorption, the fact that the mass of insulation that you have inside that building.
Right.
Plus the ceiling height.
Right.
The building will be noisier in a rainstorm than a pickleball court.
I'm not a sound expert, but you've got a huge area to absorb that sound.
Right. Okay.
Are we all okay with the whole key access at all hours, the 3 a.m. thing? That doesn't bother anybody?
Well, not me.
Okay.
There are a number of different gymnasiums who do the exact same thing.
Okay.
They allow special members, they have video, come in, you have a key card. So they know exactly who's there in case some type of, you're not gonna get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go play pickleball and not play pickleball, in my mind. You don't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to a gym because you wanna go, sit in the corner and drink beers. You can do that at your house. So they have special cards for special members.
Okay.
Right, but the bar area, as you explained earlier.
That would be locked.
That's locked.
Right.
Now, if somebody wanted to come in with,
They get up, go
beer
in
or
their
whatever.
car and go to a pickleball tournament to bring their own. You know what I mean? I don't know.
yeah,
It doesn't
I'm-
seem like a concern.
no, no. Okay, so, at this point, does anyone else want to say anything in terms
I
of deliberating
just
on
have
this?
something really quick. First off, times like this that I really, really miss Steve Perlin because he always had a good way of just formulating a motion. But in my opinion, Steve Merlin, and in my opinion, I think we should mention the fact that the fire department report is incomplete. Even if we intend it being there, is there a way to instill in the motion that any type of approval from this board, because in our purview is dependent on those two reports actually being successful.
Could we do it pending approval of those two boards? Could we?
Well, I mean, we can always.
Stipulate a
I mean,
condition.
they have to comply with whatever the environmental planner asks for. They have to comply with what the health department wants, which is an approved septic system.
That's what I mean,
I
you
see what
just
you're
had a
saying,
way
okay.
of wording it.
Yeah, I see what
That always, yes, we're approving it subject to the approval of these other relevant documents being received.
Well, when you say approval, are you saying recommended? Because sometimes, like, the police department it says complete.
Subject, right.
It
See,
doesn't-
that's
so-
what I'm saying.
No,
I
I
don't know
don't-
how to word it.
I
I know what I wanted to say, but I don't know how to word it. And of course, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
But in my
I mean,
final.
we can always do it subject to conditions, but I guess
Right.
you need to articulate what condition it is that you want to,
Not my forte. Well, that's all I had to say as far as deliberations. I don't know if,
Yeah.
if we were moving down the line and, it's somebody else's
Well,
turn
I
for
don't
the
know.
moment.
I don't
I'll
want
try to think.
foreclose discussion. Jeremy, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I think I said everything. I don't have anything else to add. Maybe it doesn't say it's complete, the fire department, frankly, that wasn't my,
No,
my point, the thing that I was stuck on, but I agree with you that it doesn't say it's complete or that it's been done, or not been done or recommended, so.
well, but we've voted on many applications in the past where departments haven't,
Weighed in.
provided a comment, so, I'm not sure what we can condition this one to.
Requires a wetland permit.
Yeah, I mean, that,
Can we make it conditioned on that wetland permit, or does that even within our purview?
well, I mean, I think Mr. Andrunas had said that he's not sure that one is necessary. They're gonna be meeting with the environmental planner, I believe he said tomorrow. And that if they do need one, then he would comply, so, that's,
I can't talk now, right?
no, but that's all right, I mean,
I'll just speak my piece, just say, you guys are approving a special permit for a change of use. And I don't think you should limit yourself to say, subject to A, B, and C, because there might be a D and an F.
Well-
So, again, I'm not telling you how to.
no, but, no,
Just because you give us a special permit for change of use doesn't mean that we don't need wetlands, we don't need fire.
no,
You need a building permit.
No.
though.
You need a
Yeah.
building
Right,
permit.
I
Gonna
mean,
have to get a use and
it's
occupancy.
just, that goes without saying, it's just that in the past,
That's all.
we have
Yeah.
conditions, these approvals on complying with certain items that were identified by different departments in the past. It's just that we seem to be struggling with the fact that the fire department didn't weigh in, nor the water division. I mean, I don't know that we can hold this up because departments aren't responding.
Correct.
So what we're saying is that we're just going to assume that eventual compliance is
Correct.
going to
Right.
occur.
In order to get a building permit, they're gonna have to get
And
the other
occupancy
approvals.
permit, they've got to have it all together.
So conditioning this permit on those approvals isn't required
Correct.
No.
because the building permit is going to follow through on other.
Right, I mean,
Agreed.
we're.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, thumbs up or thumbs down. And since it is a special permit, and I know this is something that we've started going through recently, when we look at the criteria, as has been sort of the topic of conversation all night, whether the adverse effects for the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts. And then you have the 6 categories.
Mhm.
The social impact, it seems to me that, this could be a place for people who have a passion for pickleball to be able to gather year-round and pursue that hobby. I don't know whether there's a shortage of pickleball courts or not, but certainly one could argue that it satisfies the social aspect, the social impact, excuse me. There's plenty of traffic and parking. As far as the utilities go, everything is already connected to the site. In terms of the business neighborhood character, I mean, that there are homes, I think maybe off to the side and behind this
Far, far
property
away.
on Pine Street, but they're located several hundred feet away. The impact on the environment, again, I'm not sure that there's anything that is detrimental there. And the fiscal impact, I mean, obviously, the town gets increased taxes on a functioning pickleball facility as opposed to, an abandoned, or I guess wrecked at this point. What was it, a warehouse or a moving company?
Warehouse,
Yeah.
Edwards.
So, just in terms of the approval of this, if that's where we're going to be going, we've at least reviewed those 6 considerations, so.
Thank you.
And I think it meets all those criteria.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for indoor pickleball courts.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Seconded.
And that's indoor only?
Yes.
Okay. Is that seconded?
That is seconded.
Okay, why don't we take a vote? Jean?
We all voting?
Yes, I'm just going to go one
Yes.
at a time, just go on the
Yay.
record. Jean, you say yes?
Yay.
Ron, yes?
Aye.
Ed? Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Well,
Good luck.
yeah, I guess we're all set.
No, we have to vote on the agenda.
Agenda.
Good
luck.
What's that? That's where I used to, well, no.
So that's what we were thinking.
I was,
Go play a couple.
That was the one, like, over on,
it was on
yes,
Manley.
Manley Street.
Then it turned
Yeah.
into the Metro South.
Yes, yep.
That's,
And that's how we thought about,
That-
play pickleball.
From like the
Said, Go
80s.
play
Yes.
racquetball, go work
So
out.
Yeah,
maybe
we used to
after.
play
I'm
racquetball
not
there.
your target audience because I play racquetball. And I started playing
We love
at
pickleball.
Metro South.
Yeah.
And then it closed suddenly under very suspicious
Yes.
circumstances.
I was there that morning.
Oh, you were?
Yep. I went in the morning, couldn't get it.
Yeah, we're on the record, but I know the guy, and it was an unfortunate
You
situation.
two should hang out later.
Yeah. Great gym. That was an awesome gym. I
Yeah.
love that place.
Yeah, so did I.
That's kind of the concept.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good, everybody.
Take
Have a
care.
good night. Okay, now we've got things to take care of here before, we can't just,
I like the reading.
yeah, that was good.
Suzanne, should I not be writing in all this material?
No, you're totally right.
Okay, because you wanted the material back, the binder back.
No, I
Oh, you just wanted the binder.
Pull
Oh.
out the pages if you
Oh, I should have pulled out all those pages. All right.
So, we're passing the,
I'm sorry. I'm going to take all this material.
so everybody signs that. Okay, now we have to get back to a
Good
couple
pen.
of business meeting items. There was a request, we have to vote on this. There was a request by the applicant at 95 Highland Street to request a continuance to June 11. at 7, June 11, 2024, at 7 PM at the Simmons Lecture Hall at Oliver Ames. Is anyone here to make a motion on that application?
I'll make the motion that we continue that hearing till June 11th.
Anyone second?
I'll second if I.
Gene seconds. We'll vote on it. Why don't we just do it by hand? Everyone in favor?
Strong possibility I won't be here.
I understand.
Can we buy your vote?
We'll talk after about your tax payment.
Well, did you sit on that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay.
And I won't know until the end of May.
Okay,
But you filled
But
it.
I did the Mellon report. and I
okay, all right.
Watched
Now,
that.
we also have minutes from the last meeting that we have to vote on and to approve. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Anyone have any questions or comments about the minutes? Anyone
No.
care to make a motion?
I'll move to accept the meeting minutes for April 9th, 2024.
Seconded.
Okay, why don't we vote by hand? 5-0. And lastly, we have to have a motion, we have to have a vote to adjourn. Apparently,
Nah.
you want to wait for the,
Keep going.
you want to wait for the kids to show up to school tomorrow? or-
I move to adjourn.
Okay, anyone second? Let's have a vote. That's 5-0.
Excellent.
Are we all set?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.